How did you know that?
Really? Wow.
I was sure I had not shared that with anybody.
Too late now.
Well, where is it?
No.
The next staff celebration after COVID.
No. I think she should bring it to Tuesday night's meeting.
Lighten the atmosphere.
You bring the accordion, I'll bring the voice.
Play polkas.
I'll bring the bagpipes. No, I don't.
Right, in my youth, I tried my hand at evangelism.
Ooh, that's a good
Doug
one.
Hulse.
I was going to say Doug.
Oh,
It's not Doug? Jackie.
No, we have.
And
Ron Cole.
Dylan.
Ron was an evangelist?
Yeah, I did some traveling, preaching back in the day and decided to join the Army instead.
Wow.
I didn't know that about you, but I just kind of guessed maybe. Interesting.
Back in high school, as I was finding my way, it was one of the options. But the Army paid for college.
Made you a better man.
Michael.
that one's Hulse.
It's not Mike.
I thought it was Mike based on his recent,
Tracking down that campaign sign
out
stealer.
there doing our crime fighting.
No,
And it's not Doug?
Wilden then. Is that
Okay,
Councilmember
Debbie.
Wilden?
Councilmember Wilden.
Really?
Is that the bad handwriting?
Out.
Doug.
Michael.
Describe the parties.
I'm getting accused for a lot.
well, they were very high. My father-in-law is, who would you, Mr. Tennis. So he since passed a few years ago. But he was the a color commentator for NBC for tennis for many, many years. I mean, he was involved from the beginning all the way up until recently. So we went to a lot of different tennis affairs and whatnot. So I got to meet a lot of those people. But, yeah, a lot of those old great tennis players used to babysit my wife.
Out of desperation, I once made macaroni stew with a Bedouin in the Sahara Desert.
Saying Tim.
Yeah, it's me, yep.
That's a story.
Yeah, what's the backstory there?
You have to elaborate on that.
I was hitchhiking through Egypt and hiked out into the middle of nowhere and with backpack and all my gear, and I was real set up, right? Spent the night out there, woke up in the morning, and I saw some footprints around me in the sand. So I followed the footprints and came across the Bedouin camp. About a handful of folks, a couple of camels, and I had everything with me except cook stove, fuel for my cook stove. And so I had dried macaroni and onion, and I presented that to them, and we made stew, and pretty interesting experience. Yeah, we all cooked together, and they played music and all kinds of crazy stuff. Kind of a wild experience. Yeah. But it's spooky seeing footprints around you when you wake up in the morning. That was
There's nothing that isn't spooky about that story. You're in Egypt with a backpack by yourself through the desert. Wow. Impressive, sir, impressive.
Left. I'm gonna say Jackie.
Gotta be holes.
Oh, the Coast Guard. Yeah, that should have been.
Oh, okay.
Greatest place in the world. I had the brightest porch light in Milwaukee. We never got lost. No matter what beer or bar we hit, we never got lost.
In Milwaukee, there's plenty of selection of beer.
Did you have it all to yourself, or did you have?
There were two families. We lived upstairs, and another guy lived downstairs. We did duty together. He'd get the calls, and he'd hit the roof, the floor, and I'd come down, and he'd give me the orders.
Married then, or were you alone? I was married. You were, okay, so you had your family there, cool.
Best vacation was a cruise to the Bahamas.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, we could have stuck together and stayed quiet. Yes, that was me.
Bahamas?
Yeah, well, we went to Florida, to Fort Lauderdale, and then we took the cruise over to the Bahamas and came back and went up to Universal Studios with the kids. It was the best vacation ever, yeah.
Nice. And she's read it
I
out.
grew up team penning and barrel racing.
Hey,
Say it again?
Grew up team penning and barrel racing.
really?
Oh,
Team roping?
Team penning. I tried roping once. It did not work out well.
Huh?
Went exactly how I thought that was gonna go, and
Wow, do you still?
I haven't since I moved out here, but I'm now told I'm grandfather claused in on the property I'm on. So hopefully next year we can get back into that.
It's like the place to do it, though, as opposed to...
That was why I moved.
Yeah.
Rodeo arena going up in Camp Verde. There you go.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your participation and humoring me. Okay.
That was illuminating.
Yes, it was.
Right, so let's just backtrack a little bit. I know it's hard to read, but I think where we ended up after the morning was sticking with 5 goals, change the wording a little bit. So growth, embrace, plan for, and manage sustainable growth. Environment, and if these words need to be adjusted, you just let me know. Environment, continue our stewardship of the natural resources. Quality of life, provide our opportunities for connection to maintain the culture of our community. Infrastructure, we didn't really come up with for words. Develop and improve infrastructure. If we can dial that in a bit, that would be great. And then budget or financial, continue to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. Anything else that we wanted to add to these? Before we talk about how we're going to actually accomplish the goals? Anything big glaring that we're missing? So let's talk a little bit more in detail about growth. Some of these were what you had under the goal last time: economic development, tourism, branding. I think this time annexation we can address specifically. We talked this morning about putting housing in here. I don't know where workforce development falls, if it's under here or somewhere else. Last time you had airport in here, so I didn't want to miss out on that one. But in terms of specific strategies for growth, where do we start? I mean, economic development seems like a logical place to me. So you have It's been changed around since the last time you did a plan, so now you have Tricia, who's doing economic development, in addition to the tourism marketing. What are some specific strategies that we can empower her with over the next planning period?
I think her, you got a couple other bullet points down there that are probably going to land squarely on her desk as far as, branding and tourism. Part of our economic development strategies, right?
Are there any big changes, Ron, that you see to what we're doing now with regard to the first three that you'd like the group to discuss? Because for me, I think being flexible in our economic development is key because we don't know what the half of our, this is a 2-year plan, right? So we don't, the future is not that certain. So I am kind of leaning on what your thoughts are as far as those first three.
Thank you, council member. So from what I heard earlier today, whether we do it at the staff level at the next step or here today, that being more proactive for small local businesses. So she spent a lot of time right now in tourism and those kinds of helping restaurants and wineries and those kinds of things. But from Councilmember Holson, you earlier, you said that focus on small businesses, the less than 15 employees, the mom and pop shops. So I think that, not that we're out at trying to attract, big franchises or big box kinds of things, but I thought that was a good clarification for staff. So I don't know, Marcy, how that fits into this, but I clearly heard that today, that we need to make sure that we stay focused on the small, which will help us with our culture, which goes into quality of life, because, some of those big boxes pay our bills, but our culture is developed in Old Town and the small businesses and the crane operated, the small kinds of stuff. So I heard that today. And then really with the tourism and branding, I don't know that this is the place, but at some point we're going to have to decide whether we continue with the current direction, which is internal staff, marketing, and contracting out with other firms. Heather Herman, if you're pleased with what we're doing, or if you want us to go a different direction, I am expecting to hear back from the chamber. I asked by next month to see what they wanted to do, but I didn't know if it was desire of council, you're pleased with the direction we're at right now, to continue that path. I think we can continue it for at least one more year. I think that if we, as we become more and more successful, that'll have to be expanded. I don't know if that means additional staff or a bigger contract, outside the organization. But I guess that's one of my questions about the branding and tourism. Again, I don't know if this is the right time to have that discussion, but I think at some point, that discussion will have to be had. And so if there was any insight that wanted to be provided today on that. So we moved tourism in-house this year. And so it's just one of the questions that I have. I know you're pleased with what we've done, but as I've been very clear to staff, this is temporary until we get further direction from council. So that's kind of, other than that, I think we're spot on. And just so open for business, pro business, as Councilmember Matthews said earlier, making sure our processes don't get in the way of things. And so I think we're very clear on that, and we'll continue, and we'll put some bullets in there in the next phase for that. But as far as new, those are kind of the things that I'm curious about.
I'll speak a little bit on the tourism and branding. I think that, when we decided to redirect our funds and pull that in-house, I think we did so because we saw an immediate need, and we acted quickly, and I think we did the right thing. I'd be concerned about hiring on new staff to continue that effort. I think we've done a good job, but I really feel like there are other organizations out there that are probably better equipped than city government to drive that ship, and our job really should be to support those entities more than to bring it in as a department within the city. These are my own thoughts. And I feel like it would take away too from what I think is our goal, which is economic development. I think that's really where we can have the biggest impact, is focusing more on that than on tourism and branding, I guess, if that makes sense. I'm not saying the branding is critical, and we can't let up on solidifying our brand and incorporating that into the city, but I just don't know that we need to hire additional staff to go down that road.
Just my 2 cents. I'm very happy with what I've seen, with who you've got working on and what they're doing. I realize the importance of marketing and branding, advertising, so to speak. I don't know how much. I don't think we need to ramp it up a whole lot more. I think tourism is just going to happen. Not that we should not do what we're doing, but I think it's going to happen. We get Sedona's overflow. We're just in a great spot for that. Word of mouth grows. We're here. I think that's going to keep coming. I just know in my particular business, there's been times where I've marketed and advertised. I didn't see anything come of it personally, and I've not done that for a long time, and it just comes. But like I said, I realize the importance of doing that and putting your brand out there and keeping your name out. And you know, many multi-million-dollar businesses spend a lot of money. We all know about Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all those, but yet they spend millions of dollars. They got you. Millions of dollars keeping their name out there. So I understand the importance of it. I don't know how much of it we need to do or how much higher. I agree that the focus should be more on economic development and helping out those people coming in and the existing businesses to grow and be more successful. So there are some of those organizations out there. Old Town Association that does their marketing for themselves, and so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not so sure about growing it and spending more money on it, but I like what I see happening. I think it's positive and useful.
Can I chime in for a second and just to I don't know if challenge is the word, but just give you more ideas. I sit on the marketing committee for the Sedona Chamber of Commerce, and it's not necessarily to bring more people. It can be to bring a certain type of tourist that you want, and to be more targeted about the type of people that you bring here, people who are going to respect the environment and take sustainability more seriously, people who might want to come for more than just a night or spend an afternoon in Cottonwood or spend an evening. So there are reasons other than increasing volume. It may be to be more targeted about the type of visitor that you're trying to attract. Someone that's a visitor that might spend more money in your local businesses, or like I said, respect the environment more when they visit and things like that. So. On economic development, I know Tricia's new in the role. Did her predecessor, or have you guys engaged in any type of economic diversification planning? Or
Before I got here, there is a plan. It was sponsored by the CEDC. It hasn't been reviewed in a while, but yeah. Maybe that's based on what council said earlier today for an action item under economic development is ensured increased diversity in our economic community, our business community.
I feel like, again, in getting rid of the red tape, making it easier, more business friendly. I think, when you look at some of the key employers in our area that have to do with tourism and that sort of thing, they're the ones that are spending the hundreds of thousands of dollars annually to bring tourism up here. And I think if we can do everything we can to help them be more successful, then they're going to do our marketing for us. And I totally agree with you, Marcy, about it's not just the volume of tourism, but it's the quality of. And again, we have some phenomenal business owners here that are attracting quality tourists. I think, again, the wine industry is a great example of an industry that's attracting quality tourism. One What I think our role really should be is making it just real easy for them to get permitted, get their business license, get located where they need to be, expand if they need to expand, et cetera. And in supporting them, they then will further our brand and bring up those tourists that we need.
Can I ask one other question about that? Is this a place that you want outdoor economics? Is this, I know quality of life, trails are for quality of life, but some of the partnerships we work through are to increase events, to increase visitors, something to do. Is outdoor economics important enough to put as a subcategory under growth?
Do you mean like the mountain bike festival that?
Yes, ma'am.
Either just occurred or we just approved the camping for?
Yes, and then investing in the Del Monte Wash, that's going to take some dollars to probably get that across the finish line. There are some annexations out east in the area to help with state parks to get, there's some things that they want to do out there for their other side, for the other side of Dead Horse. Cliff Rose out in that area, some more stuff they want us to do out there. And really what that does is increases tourism. So it brings people in from Sedona to go to those trails or from our hotel, something to do. So I guess are trails just a quality of life or are they a economic development kind of thing?
I think they have to be both. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Well, I'm thinking as we're talking about this, so many of these things overlap. So, it's difficult to determine which pigeonhole to put them into.
I would always love to see more of these. I've mentioned for years the old Great Stomp 5K that we had in Old Town, but I just think that, as the Vice Mayor said, they're related, and if we have the great trails, then we can start using them for other items as well. But before we move completely off of the kind of the economic development, though, I just want to make sure that we as a city don't lose sight of the little businesses. I know we've got groups. We've got Haunted Group, for example. I see them every Phoenix magazine. They've got at least a full page ad, and it's beautiful. But I just want to make sure too, we're not forgetting the little guys that don't have that marketing dollar, and that's where our partnerships with the Old Town Association and the Chamber, to me, are really important to try to make sure that as a city, we've got all of our businesses, big or small, marketing budget of nothing up to those. That was just that one comment on that.
I agree. You're right.
Well, is one of the tactics that, under economic development, does that plan need to be revisited? How old is it?
It's dusty. It's dusty. So we've been, with the direction given 2 years ago from council on tourism and cutting red tape and those kinds of things, that's really been our focus versus sector shopping and those kinds of things. So we really haven't had to go back to, we're still doing the internal processes, providing staff to help people through the process. So we haven't really had to dust off the plan just yet. We haven't slowed down to use that plan just yet.
There will be some time in the next 2 years where that will be.
It could. It really depends on what we do with marketing and what we do with the chamber. Like I said, with current staffing, we can continue this for a little bit. Probably increase our contract or out external contracts kind of things. So it really depends on what decisions are made in the next year or two on what we can do. Never hurts to have a plan, but I can tell you this council's not a big fan of plans per se, or at least paying for them kind of thing, because they do collect dust. So really, this is our plan. This is where we start, if that makes sense. So, and I think it was loud and clear. So for the action item, in my opinion, it would be, remembering the small guys. It's not exactly an item, but that's, I think, what council's telling us here today.
Active for small local businesses.
Yep.
And we define that as fewer than 15 employees.
And then we couldn't hear Councilmember Henry. Well, that wasn't from her, sorry. That was someone else. So Councilmember Wilden says, both retention and expansion are economic development. Retaining businesses should entail helping them market, which we do now, as well as assisting in their growth and success. This can be done through providing them with programs that will grow their business. An example of this is training on procurement programs, which was brought up yesterday by a couple of our small businesses. There are several, and one in Peoria with free seminars and training to assist. I know the mayor's asked for some training on Airbnbs versus the licensing programs for some of the stuff. So providing education to our community to help retain and capture opportunities. It's not exactly right, but. I had spoken to the chamber director a few weeks ago, and I believe the chair might have been in that same meeting. I asked them what they were thinking, what they wanted to bring back to the table. We had talked about at one meeting them coming back with what they wanted to do. So they had asked me about timing, and I said January would be a great time as we begin to budget so we can figure out what we're going to do. We were going to be more... Staff was going to make a recommendation based on what they do and what we were going to use that as our starting point, because if they don't want to do it, if they're happy with their new look and feel and direction, and they may not want to do it. And so then we'll go to whatever plan B is. Maybe it's the current status quo for a year kind of thing. But I didn't want to make any decisions about a recommendation until I heard from them. But I think one thing under there for this is what we're doing is good. Council is pleased with what we're doing, so continue down this path at this time.
We are, and just to mention too, what I heard yesterday from Christian and what their plans are to maybe a satellite office down in Old Town and work with that and engage people. I think that's great. I mean, I think that's the positive side effect of what we did. I think they were forced into being a little bit more creative, trying to figure out who they were and what they want to do. So I think it's turned out positively, and I was encouraged to hear that, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, we hopefully will sign that little agreement for the building here soon, and I know that they hired a new person and they're to manage their center, and so she'll have a satellite office there to help run that, and I know the OTA is going to partner with them, so it should be a good little facility there in the smallest of our 3 buildings there next to the basketball court.
Yeah, I got the strong sense yesterday that they did take this as an opportunity to look inwardly, and it seemed like there was some good feedback on some of the ways that businesses would like to feel better supported, I think, by their chamber. That came up during our last session of the day yesterday.
And then Councilmember Wilden also talks about a business survey, kind of like Mark mentioned yesterday kind of thing. So maybe that is an actionable item, is conducting a business survey of our businesses.
Like a needs assessment?
Needs assessment, yeah. He said make it a simple 5-question kind of thing, I think is what he recommended. That would almost be a miniature study kind of thing.
So under economic development, we have more proactive support, resources, and training for small local businesses. Continue our messaging and action to reinforce that we're open for business. Conduct a needs assessment survey of local businesses.
They didn't mention it yesterday that I know, but they did a survey.
When COVID first hit.
as part of our partnership? Because it seems,
Yeah, I take these as I need to get it done, but I don't have to do it. Yes, ma'am.
The other part of that too is you have a lot of businesses that aren't necessarily members of the chamber. They might,
And that's something we've struggled with. We actually brought that up at our last meeting with them is they don't
can
have
send it
access
out,
to
but if
everybody.
they only have half the database,
Right.
then
We'll work with the chamber and others to figure that out.
I think that might fall under their umbrella though too. Because they do get the list of all business licenses. We talked about that. So they have the data to have to send one out.
Contact information too, they would have.
No, they will, so Marcy, if I can be fair with this, like we did last time, we'll eventually come back for something for council to stamp on and approve formally to put on our website and guide us. So the plan is to get as much detail from you guys today, and the feedback I'm getting from staff so far is they've been very appreciative of the discussions, gives them a little background information to help come up with stuff. So we'll take what you guys do today and we'll add to it, do some specific plans to work on, having a brain cramp, and then come back to council.
While we're quickly on economic development, I'm going to bring up a point that I saw that kind of stood out to me yesterday when the Small Business Development Center put out their numbers on what they had done, businesses helping. We've created, this many jobs and this much revenue and whatnot. How much different that was from what we got a couple of years ago from our economic development department under Casey Rooney, which as soon as we saw those numbers, we knew that was just ridiculously inflated, not being honest. So it was nice to see those honest numbers on there. So I'm happy with what we've done with economic development and those departments. But I thought those were much more realistic numbers than what we'd seen before. So.
Want to put anything here? Anything in here regarding what metrics you're tracking?
I think we can come back to that with them. We're still developing some of those metrics. I just, back to Councilmember Wilden's comments, make sure that maintaining and helping our current businesses in addition to attracting. So both, we're not just out there trying to expand, we're also helping retain and assist current businesses. And I also heard from council that the focus on our Heart of Arizona wine country is still appropriate and good.
And then with travel and tourism marketing, continue with the current direction, help local tourism-oriented businesses to succeed. That comment was about making sure they can get their permits, et cetera, and support outdoor economics.
And the Councilmember Wilden also texted me, sound is spotty, so sorry. We should be absolutely doing like this when we're
Okay.
talking into the mics. I didn't know if you had your other mic on. Do you have your other mic on?
No, I can do that, though, if it
Well,
helps.
no, that either one works, so that works.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, under growth, what do we want to say, if anything, in the plan with regard to annexation?
I'd like to say that we have an annexation under our belt that went just smooth as silk and was a huge benefit to the residents that were annexed at Sawmill Gardens. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to highlight that. And I don't want to say market it necessarily, but to market it as a very positive thing that occurred. It was that community that wanted it, But I think that would go a long way to highlighting the success and the benefits to folks that annex into Cottonwood.
One of the neat things that happened out of that, Mayor, is they showed up, it's been a few months now, and I don't remember what the agenda item was, but the community showed up at a P&Z meeting and spoke. I don't remember if it was in favor or against, but they got to participate as a citizen, as a resident of Cottonwood in the planning process for something. I don't remember what it was, but it was just neat to see them there and identify themselves as members of this newly annexed Sawmill Garden. So it was very cool to have them participate in the government.
Council has been very uniform, though. I can't speak for any of you, but we're not trying to annex property that doesn't come to us to be annexed. So for anybody, in the Verde Villages that I still, hear concerns, we're not actively trying to take over anywhere that is not actively trying and asking us to annex them.
Yeah.
That is confirmed, and I made it very clear there's no hostile takeover. If a piece of land or a neighborhood or whatever wants to be annexed, we listen to them and we come to the table and talk to them, but we're not actively out there searching. Both the last one and this one that we're getting ready to explore, they approached us.
And I know the mayor has also made that publicly known, that you'll come to us and talk to us about it. We're willing to talk to you, but we're not going out there. So I think that's the right tack to take.
We followed that philosophy for several years when we tried to annex Verde Santa Fe. They came to us and said they wanted to annex. We told them what their obligations were on their part. They went back and were unsuccessful in getting enough of the community to sign off on the annexation, and we never pursued it beyond that. But when we thought we were going to annex, we were taking the steps, having fire and police become familiar with their community, and I think that's part of what stirred up some of them. They thought we were taking over, and all our fire and police were doing were trying to become familiar with what they thought was going to be a large annexation and a requirement for their services. So, but overall, we've never gone out looking for somebody. Verde Village twice has tried to annex in the past, but it's always been they approached us with the idea, and we're unsuccessful in bringing forth the petitions. One thing I did find out on Sawmill, I had one resident come up to me shortly after we annexed them and wanted to know when the property taxes were due.
Oh.
And I said, what property taxes? He said, you pay your county, well, the city property tax. I said, no, we don't have city property tax, nor do you have a fire tax. And she went away just as happy as could be.
But she was happy.
Yeah, they have to finish paying their fire property tax through some process because of budgeting and stuff, but eventually the fire tax falls off their bill.
Yep.
And that's the biggest part of their tax bill.
Oh, the fire is?
Oh, yeah. If you look at a county property tax, people out there, that's the largest portion.
Is that the same for Clarkdale?
Verde Valley Fire District, yeah, same district. I'm sure it would be. It might fluctuate a little bit, but I know my property tax bills when I lived out in the county, that was the largest part of it, was fire protection.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we need to, host a hostile takeover or anything like that, but I think there is an opportunity to highlight the success, and I do think we're stronger united. I have long felt like an annexation would be a good thing with the villages, Verde Santa Fe. I know there's a lot of reasons. And I know the city must remain neutral on this, but so maybe this isn't the place to discuss how we communicate our successes necessarily. But early on when I got on as mayor, I was invited out to Verde Valley Property Owners Association to talk about it. And it was just a conversation. I was really pleased that we were at least starting to talk about it, but it really didn't go anywhere. And I understand the reasons why we don't pursue it. But I think even just, if we could pursue it a little bit.
Well, there are people out there who
I'd be happy to attend any meeting or talk to anybody about it. Rudy's a great guy, very knowledgeable on all those kinds of things. And our community development director, Scott Ellis, is quite capable. So we're happy to talk to anybody, but our hands are full. We're not out looking for extra work. So.
Sure, of course not.
But the United is the huge, so the state share tax revenue. But beyond that, the political power. So when we talk to the state legislature, we often think of ourselves as the big Verde Valley, but really we're representing Cottonwood, and we just don't pull as much weight. So the bigger the city, unfortunately, it does matter when it comes to votes, when it comes to representation at the state. And so I think it does have a positive impact for many reasons. But again, unless council directs otherwise, I'm available to answer questions.
I hear from people out there that think that annexation would be good for them. I basically go back and tell them, you have to organize. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think the sewer, eventually ADEQ is going to push sewer for them, and that'll force them to the table. Probably happen.
That was pretty much their only argument for not wanting to be annexed, was that we would force them on a sewer, which I'm pretty sure is coming anyway, but.
I think, Marcy, for the strategic plan, just having the annexation on there, the council is in favor of considering annexations and growing the size of our city, the boundaries. If that's what they are, that's enough direction for us at this point. And then we consider each annexation at that time. We come to council for the actual comments and input. For me.
Maybe to acquiesce, maybe communicate our successes isn't maybe what council has in mind here, because it does sound like more of a marketing pitch. Communicating the facts might be more palatable to council. What do you think?
Communicating the benefits of annexation? I mean, if you're relying on people in the communities to come and request that it be considered, might some education on the benefits of annexation be helpful to the citizens?
Benefit sounds better than facts.
Doesn't it? It might be more useful if we were to be able to communicate the benefits. I mean, I've also heard from some people in the Verde villages that they're in favor of annexation, but they can't get their community as a whole to agree. So maybe if we communicated the benefits, that might change that.
I question, we want to say the benefits of annexation, because like with Verde Village, as we've discussed, over the years, there's been some concern about the annexation of Verde Village. What benefit would it serve the city, and what problems will it cause for the city? More requirement for fire and police without any additional tax income. So there's a pro and a con, depending on the size of the annexation you want to take. With Verde Santa Fe, because they already have their sewer, they already have their water, they're a smaller community. They're right there on the edge of the city, but it's a higher, I don't want to say quality, but a higher level of housing than what we would find in Verde Village. If you go down to Unit 1, you're like in a war zone in some of the areas in there. The roads are no better than a Forest Service road, even though they're county maintained. And if we were to annex it, we would have to bring it up to city standards, which would be an expense for the city that we have no benefit from.
Not everybody that wants to be annexed should be annexed.
I agree.
And we would evaluate that on a case-by-case basis. Like I said, I don't know that I want to get in, because even Verde Santa Fe, we've got issues that would need to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever council wants to do with annexation, but I'm open to listen and talking to people. But I wouldn't blanket recommend annexation of any area without studying it, because they all have pitfalls. But the key is I'm open, I hope as a city we're open to considering expanding our borders where it makes sense.
And up to now, we have been, when people have approached us.
Oh, I'm glad you're paying attention. Let me just break down, put them on. The features and benefits. Annexing is one thing, but what is it for our residents? It's what they need to know and understand.
Sorry, say that again.
Okay, features and benefits, we're talking about annexation, i.e., annexing is one thing, but what is it for our residents is what they need to know and understand. So we do have to study the pros and cons and really look at, does it add a benefit to our residents? So if we're increasing the cost versus the revenue stream, it may not be beneficial to our current residents. I mean, we do most things with our current residents in mind. As we move forward, and if the annexation adds no value, then I'm assuming council wouldn't consider it, but we wouldn't know that until we begin to look at it and
Right.
and discuss it. Yeah.
So I think looking at the second bullet point, I think we need to maybe change that just a little bit, because again, we've heard there are pros. The first one is evaluate all opportunities because there are pros and cons. And so I think maybe, Mayor, what you had in mind was look at this recent case study that we just had that was very, for everything I've heard, it's great, makes sense, and why didn't we do this before? But that's a little bit different than saying communicate the benefits of annexation in general. Wouldn't you say? So maybe even just saying, explaining prior annexation, or even just communicate that particular one?
Does that help if we had through case studies, like communicate the benefits of annexation through case studies?
Or just communicate the benefits of prior annexation, prior successful annexation? I'm not really tied to that second one, so I'm trying to cobble together something that's more in line with the discussion from the rest of people. I like bullet point number 1, evaluate all opportunities. There are pros and cons. There's always an good and then the bad.
Well, it kind of seems, again, I'm not trying to push the issue beyond the comfort level of council, which is why I thought, well, maybe just communicate the facts of annexation. I think, we could really just delete that second bullet point and we will evaluate all opportunities for annexation that are presented to council. I think this council's at least comfortable with that. You come to us, we'll talk. We'll weigh the pros and cons, share facts, and see what is of benefit to our residents.
I think so. I don't think we need to get terribly into the weeds on this one.
And putting it that way, I think, helps to communicate that we're not out there trying to force annexation on anybody, which I think is what some people are worried about.
I think by just simply saying we'll evaluate any inquiries for annexation without saying, here are the benefits for you coming in, or here are the disadvantages of coming in. And just the opportunities are there for those that are interested.
We talked about this morning, housing. How do we what is our tactic or our strategy for housing in the plan? I understand we have to be realistic, and it's been frustrating trying to find an actual solution, but is there any particular strategy that we can include the plan that we have a chance of actually accomplishing?
I'm waiting to see the housing study that is coming back from Pollock. But I think there's a lot of things we can do in our, and that we are already doing in our code to allow for, we've been modifying setbacks to help some non-conforming lots conform so you can actually put housing on there. I think we can continue encouraging variety of housing stock, more townhomes, more apartments, and that sort of thing. Just sort of a more holistic look at those little small things we can do to chip away at the housing shortages that we have. I would really like to see us at least talk regionally about what it would take to get a housing authority in the valley or in the county. I think having that discussion regionally would be a goal that we could accomplish.
Would that be, that would be a regional housing authority that you're contemplating?
I think having a housing authority somewhere in this county would help. Through all my work, I've been on several committees, and it's been being talked about ever since I got to Cottonwood about getting a housing authority in Yavapai County, and how do you do that? And having an agency that would take that on, you have to have an agency that's going to run it, so we'd have to identify who that might be. But I've also heard that we won't get any other Section 8 vouchers for Yavapai County until we have our own housing authority. So whatever Phoenix has already given us is all we're getting. So I think working towards a housing authority is definitely a step in the right direction in order to be able to provide that more affordable, low-income housing.
Is there enough consensus to say support the development of a housing authority?
Can I be picky? Support or pursue? Like, are we going to lead it? Because I've been here 2 years and it's been bounded about for 2 years. Unless the county changes their stance under new leadership, and they could. The county's not inclined to do a housing authority. I think Sedona might. I know that they've been willing to pitch in dollars to do something like this. Justin's dealt with this issue in his other communities and has a lot of great ideas. We have supported the idea for a couple of years, but we haven't put any money behind it. It's going to take a staff or the contribution to staff to get this going. We're going to have to lead on this. I'm just being honest with you, and or not, but just supporting it. I haven't seen any other community or county willing to step up in all the meetings I've been in. Everybody talks about it. We've talked about it. But until we get a staff member or we pay, for a outside agency to start it, it's going to continue to be wanted and not done.
I think you're right. I think the county's made it very clear that they're not interested in getting into any kind of infrastructure or anything that they're not mandated to cover. So yeah, they're not ever going to go there.
Authorities needed before we can get HUD money or lead on that, because otherwise we can talk about the problem, but if we're not going to fix it, it doesn't matter. So if that's how we fix it, then.
I think Ron's right. If we really want it to happen, we're going to have to lead it with who we are here in the Verde Valley, in partnership with other towns of the Verde Valley. And I think if we lead it, we'll be able to find an agency willing to take it on if we can make it viable.
I think I absolutely support it. We've talked about it before. But are we in a place right now to be able to dedicate resources that we might need elsewhere?
Councilmember Henry, that's a perfect question that I don't have the answer to yet. So, but if we say lead, then it'll be another competing priority. And if I can or can't, I'll bring it to council at that time. But I think just because it's a priority in the strategic plan doesn't mean we'll get to it this year. I don't know what the costs are. I don't know, what Sedona's willing to pitch in, kind of things. So, but that was my question. Do I need to move it up on the list of priorities in the competing priorities, or does it just stay as we're the, attending meetings and saying yes kind of thing? But you're right, ma'am. I don't know the dollars yet. Don't know that it's next year, but I've never felt like council wanted to put any significant dollars behind it. So that's really what I'm asking here. Is this really a effort or just a support?
For me, I agree with that. Somebody would have to show what the benefit's going to be so a housing authority. What do they do? What's going to be the positive benefit on having a housing authority versus the cost? Sounds great to say to have one and put one together, but what is it going to actually be able to accomplish? I don't know.
I feel like leading the effort is, I think the effort at this point is just getting the other communities in the valley together to discuss it, where that would just be staff time. I got the impression, at least last time we spoke about it, that, Sedona was very interested, and Justin Clifton has a fair amount of experience. And I thought there was maybe even talk about pooling some of our CDBG funds to make that initial investment in someone that could move this forward. So I don't see leading the effort being that the city of Cottonwood would become that authority, or the one that houses the authority, but just that we would almost lead the conversation, get the people at the same table where we could, okay, let's actually figure out how we're going to solve this problem. And are we going to pool some resources that we get from the federal government to make this happen, or what are we doing?
I don't disagree, sir.
I think I like the idea of what you said, pursue rather than lead, because if we say lead, everybody's going to look to Cottonwood and say, oh, Cottonwood's going to take care of the workforce and the low-income housing. And we don't want to be everybody's dumping ground. We want to take care of our needs.
Fair. I think the mayor's right. Justin is probably a well-suited person to help lead these efforts, but I'm okay with pursue. I guess I was trying to judge the level of commitment to this project.
Leading the conversation, I think, was a good phrase on that.
I think if we can word it in such a way that we do a little bit more than what we've been doing, so that we can get the conversation really rolling, is what I would like to see. Not that we should take it all on ourselves.
Right.
But if we don't put the wording in there to get the conversation rolling, then nothing's ever going to happen.
Are we pursuing or are we leading the conversation?
This is their plan.
Are we pursuing or are we
Can we
leading?
look into it and find out what it
How
costs
about
to lead it?
we're
That would
pursuing
be part of it.
by leading the conversation? And we'll create a forum for the conversation to begin and then to continue.
And we have our point person right there.
We do. And Councilmember
I would be
Wilton.
happy to lead this effort. Yes, thank you.
Yep. Councilmember Wilden said develop a plan, so it's part of that.
But we don't like plans, I thought.
Not paid for.
You're probably not paid for plans. I know what she means. This matches. It
Okay.
makes sense.
We can develop a plan without paying somebody else to develop it for us.
Go with what she just said.
Parentheses, no consultants. Okay. So pursue the development of a regional housing authority. I think that's
Didn't Bill Sedona for it?
There's an unfunded mandate.
The extra problem here's the bill.
Do we want to say something about workforce development in this?
Are we done with housing?
I don't know.
My question to council on housing, and because the mayor started the conversation, so I don't want to leave it hanging because it's important, and I'm going to use a dirty word that he said better than me, but higher density, mixed use properties, those kinds of things to help solve problems, whether it be apartments or condos or bungalows or, the other thing that I think needs to be in there that he said is reducing zoning hindrances or city code hindrances to development of infill projects and those kinds of things. So that's two things, I guess. One is council supportive of higher density or mixed use where appropriate?
I say it depends on the setup for high density. Part of the reason with COVID we didn't get hit anywhere near as hard as the inner cities, we don't have 10,000 people in one apartment building. So if there's a way, maybe more multifamily, I guess would be a better way to put it, than having 10,000 apartments in one building, so that should anything like this happen again, we're not, if you lock 10,000 people in one building and one person's sick, we're screwed. If you have 10,000 people spread out, we don't have anywhere near that issue.
Till now.
We still have less of an issue, but
I think what you said about exploring areas where appropriate, what I don't want to see us get into is where a lot of these major cities have completely eliminated single-family housing zoning. I don't
Right.
think they're going to find that's really great in the future.
I've seen those emails. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
us moved out here because we want the 10 acres with the indoor riding arena.
I'm with you.
Well, and I think if we're trying to do small business growth, bring in smaller businesses, why would we want high-density housing? So I would not be in favor of too much of high-density anything if we want to remain small and have that feeling going on here.
That's a catch-22 because even if as we develop more economics through smaller businesses or manufacturing, what have you, with 15 to 50 employees, most of those employees are not going to be able to afford single-family housing. They are going to need to have multifamily housing available to them, whether that be condominiums, townhomes, or apartments. I think we have to decide what our workforce is going to be. Our workforce is not going to be white-collar executives. Our workforce is going to be blue-collar, and as a result, the housing for those people have to be at a different level than they would be for the executives. If you want to go to Silicon Valley, for example, those people wouldn't live in anything that we live in. But if we want a workforce, most of the people around here are very comfortable in the housing that we have available. And those that are in the service industries or working as a employee of a small manufacturing are not going to be making big bucks. They're going to need housing that they can afford and continue to have a quality of life besides paying the utilities in the house. And a lot of that will be either apartments or condominium townhomes that can be built at a more affordable expense. So I think we need to explore more diversity in housing solutions where appropriate might be a better way to put it, so that we're not saying we're going to just shut everything down, but where we can provide the multifamily housing in areas that are not going to affect other areas.
And I didn't mean to say that I'm not in favor of apartments or affordable housing, or because I am, but I'm not in favor of such high-density neighborhoods going in that it's going to overwhelm everything.
That's what I'm
really
saying.
where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
The smaller apartment complexes, instead of huge apartment complexes,
Yeah.
let's focus on the smaller ones.
Well,
That's where I'm
They have,
at.
like, getting, was it
Question for Ron, do we have any idea with our current boundaries, how much space we even have? Because we're talking, when I hear the word high density, but to my knowledge, we don't have that much space to put anything really high density. So we are talking about the smaller complexes. Is that, is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. 89 in Vine is probably our next big one, and it's going to be mixed use, as you guys it was approved 30 years ago, I think it was, but it's mixed use, so they all have sections of higher density. The Vineyards has a section of higher density, I think 45 acres about was meant for some higher density apartments because of the open space. So we have lots of rules in place to prevent over density. So we have open space, I think is 30%. And then Inspiration Apartments, a couple hundred units there, I think is on the books. But then when you look at a lot of open land outside of the state trust lands is industrial or commercial zoned. So they're getting harder and harder to get. I think the last one that they came by the office was 100 manufactured homes in a small area. They're not going to be super big.
So setting aside the projects we already all know about, again, to my knowledge, I'm doing a visual, we've got Cherry and Main, there's a vacant lot there. There's off of 7th. We have what, maybe 5 or 6 that are zoned.
And Cherry's taken. There's a project going to P&Z for the property on Cherry. So, there's not a whole lot.
Okay.
Some of our industrial areas is where the current developers and project folks are coming into the office and asking us about, or near the airport, off 89A area. Problem at 260, even though there's lots of developable land out that way, and there is current state trust land inside of our boundaries out there, there's no water and sewer. So development costs are pretty significant. Even where there is open land, there may not be utilities. So we're really, you're right, there's not a lot of opportunities for significant super apartments, super complexes, they'll all be mixed use.
Then do you think Councilmember Holz's where appropriate kind of, I think, is perfect?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because council always decides. It is a solution, higher density. And so I just want to make sure that that's on the table. In Yuma, one of their solutions is small single-family homes tight together, but they are individually owned. There is a yard. It's just condensed. It's high density there. So it can be done at that single, homeowner level in the right solution.
This all begs a question for you. How many tiny home permit applications have we seen so far?
Let me put it this way. On my desk, 0. So I think periodically people come in and, talk to community development, but I haven't had any yet.
Yeah, so we've come up with something that, possible solution here. I just wondered, has anybody, I didn't expect it.
We have a gentleman right now who's considering it in an area that may or may not work. So it's nice to have that on the books, and I think people look at that. We send them, so I know Scott and team responds to questions about tiny homes. So it's nice to have those rules, but we've not gotten far as a permit application for one yet.
I didn't think so. Just knowing the way it's written up and what the realities are for those things, not going to invite them in.
Well, it's diversity, I think, is what's, we don't want to have just tiny home villages. We don't want to have just massive apartment complexes, but we do want to have, the diversity, like you said, Doug, where it's appropriate. And I think that's.
I'm concerned right now, all we're building are single-family, higher-end, middle-class housing. We're not taking care of a good percentage of our community. And I think we can find ways to accommodate that with the proper developers, whether it be townhomes or condominiums even, or apartment complexes. An apartment complex of 15, 20, or 30, 40 apartments is not an out of character for our community.
And I think
agree. I
in
don't
2
want to
years.
see 300, 400.
In 2 years at this retreat, we'll be able to see where we're at, because I can think of multiple projects that are going to be multifamily or a small apartment complex. So I think that I'm good with the direction. The only other thing I would add is I'm assuming council wants to make it a priority to continue to reduce red tape, for lack of a better.
Yeah, and explore options on different ways we can address zoning and impediments.
In that respect, I don't think current zoning is an issue, because I think somebody will see a piece of property that they think they can do something with, and regardless of what the zoning is, they'll come in and ask about having that changed to suit them, which I think we're completely open to.
That mindset should translate through all of our departments. Like our, not, but making it easy. You want to come and build if it's a project that falls in line with our, if it's appropriate.
So should we say that specifically? Should we say make it easier, give staff more flexibility to explore housing options? I mean, should we say that affirmatively in the plan? Or is it sufficient to say what we have here?
No, I think we need to restate that council desires the city to be open to exploring
Flexible zoning.
Yeah, flexible, and not just zoning, but policies and procedures when it comes to development, whether that's coming in and asking for an exception to building something, or whether it's a zoning thing or a setback thing, or whatever it is. I think that council, what I'm hearing is staff needs to continue on the path we've been on, which is being open to changing the current regulations to make sure we're meeting the expectations of our housing needs. That's wordy, but.
Tell me if I'm going to get the words wrong and help me get them right.
I'm glad people are listening. Regulatory flexibility.
I like it.
Yeah, well, that's because another attorney told me.
I was going to say, that sounds like a very legal term.
My only, and this doesn't need to be in there, but I just want to make sure that our regulatory flexibility is not then infringing on other property owners' needs as well.
And that's where I think it has to go through the process, planning and zoning council.
Well, and that's why I didn't like the word staff earlier, Marcy, because this council hasn't given staff the authority to waive things.
Okay.
We want to make sure that they go through the process. P&Z, we had an example recently where there was a business that would have caused or is causing issues with neighbors. So we want to make sure that we haven't circumvented the public process.
Sure. I'm just going to bring up a couple of things from my notes from this morning when we talked about it to make sure if you wanted it in here, we will include it. We talked about incentivizing developers. Do we need a bullet point on that? The words that I took down this morning were find developers and incentivize them for affordable housing projects.
I think that's going to bite us if we.
Exploring diversity in housing solutions.
Yes.
The T
Okay.
in
And
my-
regulatory flexibility could be part,
Yeah.
that could be part of
Okay.
that as well.
Because this council's not very fond on waiving fees and stuff, but
Got it.
if we donated the land to do a PPE, that might be something different for a low-income housing or something.
We also talked about the critical home repair aspect of it. Does that rise to the level of having a bullet point here, or is that really, really tactical? That'll be.
I was going to say, let us staff have some things
Okay.
to work on, but, because I haven't ran that by the attorneys either to see what we can give away and not. And I think what we could do is talk about in our quality of life, when you guys talk about the community grant program, do we make that, in January, we're going to be discussing that program. Do we make something like that a priority?
Well, that's what I had in mind. And I've even talked to Tanya about coming in and applying for that by saying, we'd like some funds to do this, and we will reserve those funds to be done within the city limits of Cottonwood. So
Us doing it. I agree.
Yeah, that's
what
out
I
there.
thought the vice mayor was saying. So I think that also falls under the explore diversity and housing solutions where appropriate. Whoever came up with that bullet, nice job. Solves all our needs.
Steve came up with regulatory flexibility. Steve, do you hear that? They said thank you.
And of course he did.
way to go.
Don't let it go to his head.
If we,
Oh, and Debbie said bingo.
all right.
I thought she was paying attention.
She is paying attention. Oh, I thought I walked into that one.
For workforce development, in my notes from this morning, I just had the mayor will continue to be a liaison with the educational institutions. Is that understood, or do we need to put that in?
Yeah, I will be. I think also if we could bolster our mentorship program, is that a possibility?
No, it's a possibility, sure.
Does that require much staff time or effort or?
Well, it depends on who the mentorship's going to be. Are we talking about us starting a program or us mentoring? Because, we belong to the high school program where we have internships and stuff like that. So we can work that details out at the staff level, but I think clearly council's supportive of workforce development, whatever that looks like, so.
Say that, or is it understood?
Maybe just that to continue to support those organizations and encourage them. VIAC, Yavapai College, high school, the auto shop department over there, which I've been aware of for some time, which is seeding trained auto mechanics into several of our local businesses. Yeah, within a couple of years, they're making more than their teachers.
Yes. The
More than their
HVAC
bosses,
program
too.
that's getting ready to start.
And then the last one was the airport, and I've heard all of you say what an asset it is, and that there's a lot of opportunities there. Is there anything specific we want to say in terms of a strategy for the airport, or do we leave that to the airport authority? Or?
Quieter.
No, make it noisier.
I like the direction we're on, I like the plan we have right now.
I was going to say, continue with our current wording and our
Yes.
plan. I think it's done very well.
Let's clone Dr. Williams.
Right.
I love watching those 747s come in and take off.
Yeah. All 20 of them we get an
Well,
hour.
And the planes are
that
no
one
longer
fits into
buzzing my
that first
building,
economic
so.
development at the airport. A lot of the stuff we're doing is in the first one, so we're good.
All right, whew, we got done with one. Quality of life.
We have to get quicker or we will be here all night.
Start cracking. That was the big one, though, I think.
I think I've only got her paid through 5, so we need to finish.
I thought someone said 3.
Nice try.
The break's at 3, ma'am.
I think the last session won't take as long as we have allocated for it, so I think we'll be okay.
We could send Mary Ann for
Eating.
dinner.
Oh, did she put 3 o'clock for that meeting?
No, 5.
No, she put it at 5.
She put a time?
No, immediately to follow, I thought.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
goodness.
5 o'clock, immediately to follow. That's what
Okay.
she said.
Okay.
But yeah, she did put a time because she expects us to be here till 5.
I actually couldn't pull it up, so I was relying on somebody who told me to do it at 5 or immediately.
Yeah.
All right, we're sidetracked, Marcy.
Okay. Reeling it back in. So quality of life. What do we want the focus to be for the next few years? I mean, we have parks and trails, events, who knows when we're going to be able to have those again. What do we need to say about that specifically?
I guess it'd be helpful to have, maybe to see what we currently have regarding that and whether that still,
So we had, in the current plan, we had evaluate use of our community parks, hosting community events, creating pocket parks and gathering spaces, explore alternative funding sources, support and promote the parks master plan,
I'm
increase
not
community.
so sure we have such a huge change in direction on those things.
So I think for parks and trails, I think you guys have been kind of clear on that today. I don't know if you want to spend any more time maybe on events or,
There's, I think, events is, of course, yeah, it's a tough one. It will continue to be a tough one. But I think we've been doing a good job at, if somebody approaches a city, they want to do an event, we support their efforts in making that happen. I think we can continue to do that. I'd like to see when we do start events again, I'd like to see that they align with our brand. I think that's really important. We continue to solidify our brand.
Well, I remember yesterday, the gal bringing up the fact that we should have a signature wine event.
city what?
A signature wine event, which we kind of used to have, which we've lost. That would be extremely consistent with our brand and our goals.
And there have been talks about that. I mean, Paul has approached me and a couple others have approached me with some really, I think, great ideas for, a Cottonwood hosted wine event. I think it's something that we should really.
It's been on Paula's to-do list.
But I mean, and she gives us a lot of grief for claiming the helm, but we gotta back it up too. So
Be in the heart. Yeah.
Ensure events are consistent with our brand. Do we want to continue with developments of parks and trails or say anything about parks and trails?
Can I add one more thing to this, though, before we go about parks, trails? Someone says it and then we move on, but do we want to make that a priority for staff to help whenever we're allowed to, whenever we can, to create a signature wine event? Is that something council wants? Is it enough of a want to put it on here?
As a goal?
I think so.
As a goal,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know when or if it'll be able to happen, but
Yeah, as a
Paula's
goal.
paying for it.
That leaves them the flexibility to pursue it or not pursue it as those opportunities come up. Pursue the goal.
Yeah, I think pursue, because ideally, we'd find some other organization that we
Right.
can encourage to do it, just like Clarkdale did.
Yeah, I know from watching a couple of years of the, what's the motorcycle rally? Yeah, Thunder Valley
Thunder.
Rally. Takes a lot of staff time for a big event like that, huge amount.
This is where we had citizen engagement. I feel like we talked about it. Is there anything that we can do to have citizens buy into the brand and the vision more? The Heart of Arizona Wine Country and or the Inspire a Vibrant Community? I mean, how do we communicate that and get it to where people can roll that off their tongues? Not just people that are, actively involved in.
I can give you an example of why that's an issue. One of the speakers brought it up yesterday, but I'll hit home. There was a decision on bicycle stands, where you lock your bikes. And some of the people were trying to vote the Heart of Arizona Wine Country off of that. They didn't want that on the bicycle thing because kids will see it. Well, it's our brand. And so it's not about encouraging kids to drink. It's about our brand and people who are visiting the community. So based on the last strategic plan, it was easy for me. It's the Heart of Arizona Wine Country. We're going to put that throughout our organization and anything the city does. But that's very important because it isn't necessarily community yet. I don't know that the community as a whole has bought off on that. Marcy, and I think one of our speakers said that yesterday too.
One of the speakers, I wish I could figure out how to articulate, I remember her exact words, but in the travel tourism part, she was talking about how it's important to focus on the residents. I forget how she put it. When you focus on the residents, the tourism follows, but if you focus on the tourism and not focus on the residents.
Tourists like a community that's
Focused
set
on
up
the
for
residents.
locals. And locals, I think she said locals like a community that's,
No, if you
It
build
wasn't in the reverse,
tourists
right?
like-
Yeah, you build
Locals don't like communities that are set up
Okay.
for tourists. That's how she said it. But
Okay.
tourists like communities that are.
because they
set up
want
for
local,
locals.
yeah, they want local flavor. They
Right.
want to hang out go where the locals go, check out the local spots. Yeah, they want to experience that. Not Disneyland. If you want the other way around, you go to Disneyland, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big deal for me. I don't know it's for the other council members too, but trying to get that citizen engagement. I know I've talked with Ron about, a Friends of the Trails kind of volunteer group that we could try to get together to help kind of clean up and beautify some of the trails, that sort of stuff. I think in a lot of the things we do, we could try to get the action committees together to help us do certain things that we do in the city that would help kind of bring more of the community into the fold. I mean, we have a huge opportunity with the retirees in the area that have, more time and many are affluent and have, resources to help. I think there's a good opportunity to try to get them into the fold, and that would help us solidify our brand, help us, beautify the city. And, I don't know how to do that.
Hiking's a big thing, and I know we have a pretty active bicycle group that advocates for things like that and pursues that. We don't have anything like that with hikers, walkers for trails and whatnot. No.
No, we work through some Sedona partnerships and the National Forest partnerships, but we, to the best of my knowledge, don't have a city-connected volunteer group like the BAC, like the bicycles.
It could help build that pride in our community, help build, also build the brand, solidify the brand. I don't know I don't know how the city plays a role in that. I don't know what the best path forward is, but I think it's.
the creation of action committees to further our Parks and Rec and our branding and whatever else, but to further our culture or quality of life?
I'd say a lot of it too is we can post something on our Facebook page, but if they're not on our Facebook page reading it, they're not going to see it. If you share it to some of the, like the community bulletin board or whatever, that's also a Facebook page, but more people see that. So while they're not necessarily on the Cottonwood page, they might be on like, I'm trying to remember, there's like a Clarkdale page, a Cottonwood bulletin board, a Verde Valley bulletin board. There's like 20 some odd pages where if you share to that, more people see it.
Play it out.
She calls it a focus group. Develop a list of what constitutes a small town feel. It goes back to the signage of the interest to the city, build a monument sign.
Business world, you'd call them brand ambassadors, right? You want people out there, you can't be everywhere. So you want people out there that are doing the work with spreading the brand for you. So if you have areas of interest, your bikers, your hikers, your conservationists or whatever, if you had a citizen liaison or, an action committee, not that you want to create 14,000 committees, but
Oh, no.
if you picked 3 for the next 2 years, and you played with the model and, saw what that looked like and whether it helped to kind of spread the message, I think it'd be, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Put a board up over by like Fry's or Safeway or, I was trying to think where everybody would like go in and out anyway.
A board?
Like, hey, we have this going on.
Only with
You
their
wanna-
permission. I mean, we could do something.
More people go to food shopping than necessarily the library.
I really like the idea of the action committees. I just worry, I think one of the goals of this council has been to sort of reduce the number of commissions that we have, because we have a lot of commissions, and that requires, open meeting law, staff liaisons, et cetera, et cetera. So I like the idea of the action committees. I wish that it would just sort of naturally emerge from the community, but it doesn't seem to be naturally emerging from the community. I think it is going to take a little corralling from the city so we can try to direct. I mean, I know there's passionate people like the bicycling community and whatnot that do a lot to help, further their efforts in the city, but it's not.
It's organic. I mean, yeah.
Could. Mr. Mayor, so to kind of go, I'm with you. We do not want more committees per se, but maybe the brand ambassador and that we make this next 2 years effort in increasing volunteerism in the community, whether it be trails, because I know that we struggle keeping some of the trails clean. Some of it's not even in the city limits, but like the trailhead starts in ours or it's on state property, not. So we have issues about what we can and can't do, but volunteers are almost welcome everywhere. So maybe the city makes we make a strategic effort to increase volunteerism. I know the library, because of the pandemic, has had a reduction in volunteers, and I know that the rec center wants to create a volunteer program they're working on to help with some things in Parks and Rec. So there's lots of parts of the city that we've thought about trying to figure out how to improve volunteerism. So if it pleases the council, if that's sort of what we're talking about, quality of life with this, improving things, improving our branding, improving our saturation for citizen engagement, maybe we do it through volunteerism.
Wouldn't that kind of seem to naturally flow out of the Parks and Recreation Commission? Those same kind of like-minded people? No.
Not necessarily. I mean, they're great people, but I think for something like trails, it takes a trails passion. Like one of the reasons we are a silver community for bicycle-friendly community is because of the work and the passion of the BAC. So it's really reaching out, finding the right person who doesn't really want to sit on a committee, but wants to get out and clean up trails. The other thing is we get calls periodically, Boy Scouts or Bashas wanted to do something one time. And so we don't really have a volunteer coordinator that would help point that person in the right direction. But we just figured out how to make this a priority and create that.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a place to funnel, because I get a lot of requests too. Pastors have moved to the area, they want to meet with me, they want to get their congregation wrapped around some project. And, I meet, we talk, and, if we had a short list or some kind of place where we could direct them, say, these are the actual real needs in the community. If you have a bunch of volunteers, then this is what we need to get done.
But like a sign-up sheet either at the rec center or at the chamber is going to set up a satellite office, and that way people can, hey, if there's anything going on, this is what I can do. And then you have a list to pull from, and hopefully it's not the same 5 people on every.
We can encourage volunteerism in areas of interest. They're consistent with their brand. Does that? I'm not sure. Say something about awareness and education?
Did that come up in today's discussion or yesterday's discussion?
It was it was part of the previous plan, I think. Yeah, strengthen community awareness and education. Develop promotional plans for arts and entertainment district, trails master plan, parks master plan, riverfront wastewater plan, and Cottonwood community clubhouse.
Councilmember Wilden, all capital letters. Please speak into the mic. Exclamation point, blah, 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 on. From Councilmember Wilden, that is passing through Ron. That is not from Ron.
Very good. Sorry. I think awareness and education is starting to become integral into, what we do. I mean, we wanted, when we started on the budget process, we wanted to kind of get a show on the road to, hit the neighborhoods with information. And I don't know if it still needs to be on here or not, or if it's just sort of part of what we do now.
I think it needs to be part of everything we do, not just budget.
Seems to me that everything we're doing is awareness and involving the community.
Hug the mic. Be one with the mic.
Maybe next time we should have lapel mics.
Ron's working on it.
And is this where we want to address police and fire?
I think we should
so.
keep them.
Yeah, we should.
What do you say?
It is a quality of
we
life
should keep 'em.
issue.
Excuse me?
Police and fire is a quality of life issue.
I agree.
Yes.
So many communities talk about eliminating some of them. I think we should keep them.
Yeah, we're not
We should keep them, right? Okay. Please, I'm like, oh my goodness, please.
I have not heard anybody in our community suggest that we defund our police. We enjoy a wonderfully low crime rate,
Yes.
and I think our residents are appreciative of that. They feel safe here, and we want to continue that. And that is a big part of quality of life, is feeling safe in the community that you live in.
And I think the same thing goes for the fire department. We have an excellent fire department, even though I know some of our neighboring fire departments would argue that. But we
They can
always
argue.
seem to be there before they are, so.
Okay, we'll keep them too.
Yeah, our fire department are heroes when it comes to citizen engagement and going out there and outreaching. And so
Yes.
maybe we need to just copy them in other areas somehow.
And our police have been doing a good job with citizen engagement. I see the pictures in the newspaper.
Well, yeah, the police and the fire both are very community-oriented.
So the police, the neighborhood program, neighborhood police officer program, council enjoys and wants more of that, I'm assuming?
Yes, that's an
Neighborhood
excellent program.
It's amazing how the community responds to that when they have their own police officer.
I like that program a lot. I would like to see that built upon. I think it's a great program. But I wonder, I think that, I remember years and years ago, there were neighborhood block watch programs that were a little bit more robust, I guess, and I think that's tapered off a bit. And, I don't know if we all know who our neighborhood officer is where we live, but, I think many residents might be hard-pressed to name their neighborhood officer. And I know that that's, it's no fault of the officers, of course, it's just, they're stretched in a lot of different directions. But if there was some way where we could try to support, neighborhood block programs, maybe get those officers in the neighborhood more so people could easily identify or know how to contact their neighborhood officer, I think that might go a long way to getting we have great support for our police department in our community, but I think there's still, ways to expand on that.
Sorry, but I do, you're absolutely right. I get nothing but police and fire. I want to make sure we do keep this under quality of life, because that is something that I hear. Folks move here, they have a positive interaction with police or fire, and people come and say it's so different than wherever they came from, depending on the person. And I like where the mayor's going with whenever we can support, like the neighborhood police officer program and et cetera.
I was under the impression some time ago we talked about on the website, because all of the neighborhood officers are listed by their areas, and we supposedly had set it up so that you could go into the website and say, I live at, and it would come up with, well, your neighborhood officer is Officer so-and-so. So if they had a question on the neighborhood officers, all they have to do is go to the city's website under the PD and neighborhood officers, and there's a question box, what's your address? And then it will tell you who the officer is, how to contact them. We did that some time ago because that was a problem. People didn't know who their officer was. They know they have one, but there's 5, I believe.
And it is, as somebody who has used that to find my neighborhood officer for both of my properties, it is pretty user-friendly. You get on there, you can find it, you can email them, and
email them or call them, either one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do we need to address, sorry.
If we're going to start annexing and developing and all that fun stuff, do we have a path to make sure that the police department and fire department grow with that so we don't end up with a...
Do we need to address recruitment and retention?
Always.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. But I don't know that it needs to be on this as a goal, because it's a general issue for all of the city, not just those positions. Mm-hmm. But by that last bullet, that gives me enough direction to make sure that I'm assisting the police department, and then they're working on retention and recruitment. Okay. We swore in, I want to say 3 new officers yesterday, so I'm very excited about that, but stay tuned for that. So, but yeah, and I think you hopefully will see more robust policing, neighborhood policing, as we fill. Yeah. Over the last couple of years, we've gone through some turnover and vacancies, and so I think that you'll see a more robust program, especially hearing how much council appreciates that program.
And I had a question about fire. Is it possible for them, when they do their annual inspections, to certify the fire extinguishers also? Is that like a big thing, or?
Can we talk offline on that? There's some private companies that do that.
If they show up.
Right. So I know that our fire marshals do check that, but they don't certify it. So I can talk to the fire chief about that. I can look into that, but I don't want to take a private company's job kind of thing. So but let's talk offline.
It came up during the course of the interviews, one of the council members said to do more to attract and retain young people. Is that something that came up under the context of quality of life? So that's why I'm bringing it up.
And I think we're working on that through all of our work with parks and trails and stuff. A lot of those kinds of things are geared towards younger people, I think. I mean, I'm sure there's some older people that do get out and hike and bicycle, but not a lot. So in my mind, that is more geared towards the younger folks. I said there are some, Michael.
Was that along the lines of stopping what we've discussed before, where somebody graduates from Mingus, goes to school at ASU or the U of A, and then doesn't come back? So stopping, getting our kids back in our community, or, because I'm kind of I don't understand what that priority is, more young people. I think we want to have a city where folks of all ages feel comfortable and welcome. But that is something that we have discussed before, as far as how do we get people back here if they go away to school instead of
So can I frame this a little differently? It didn't come from me, but one of the things that I think we need to ensure that we're doing is creating a welcoming space for young families. And that's our Parks and Rec department. For example, we talked yesterday about the expansion of the kids park, adding a play apparatus over there. So I think things like that. So beyond the young, maybe single or people that is just creating the connection space that we talked about before for families.
And I think we have a lot of that. I mean, there's just some certain things that realities, when these kids get old enough, I mean, you remember being
Join the Army.
18 to 30 years old. I didn't really want to be in a small town. I wanted to be out there where it was moving and shaking and all kinds of things going on. And unfortunately, we don't offer that. We're probably never going to offer a lot of that. They'll just have to want that and to stay here. We're going to lose a lot of them to that. Maybe they'll come back later. A lot of them do.
I think we'd get more of them, though, if we had businesses that paid better. And that's exactly why my daughter moved from here, where she'd rather live, back to Phoenix. And so I think in what we're doing about attracting better paying jobs to town will help bring some of those back too.
I like what you said earlier too, Ron, about, how when we do make improvements to the built environment, how do we gear those improvements more toward, younger families? I think that's, your Mommy and Me swing is a really great example at Garrison Park. I think that was just one of those simple things that, we could do. We had money set aside to make some improvements. And so when we did, we kind of directed those improvements toward, a section of our community that needs supported. In my opinion, I think that's a good thing.
You have a lot of activities geared more toward either the young kids or the adults, and that teenage section kind of gets dropped in the middle. And those are kind of the years where they're either going to connect or they're going to want out as quick as possible. So the more we can do to target that teenage group so they don't want to run out of here screaming. I know a lot of people have looked into like paintball and other types of things. We have that skating ring that, I know they use the skate park. I've never seen anybody in the skating ring. But if we could start, and I know with COVID it's hard, but if we could start gearing more activities and events toward that age group.
A little positive on that. I ride by the skate park most every day or every other day, and there's always a good number of people in there for most of the time.
Yeah, the skate park's usually packed.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So two things. Absolutely, we can. We have a youth commission from the high schools. We can try to expand that program a little bit and help them target what they want. Just a side note on the skate park. I'm in San Diego renting bikes to ride the little thing, right? The guy's like, I love Cottonwood. I'm like, oh, cool. He goes, yeah, we go down there and we go to the skate park and we do tours around the state in skate parks. So he lives in San Diego area and he travels to Arizona because our skate parks are awesome, including the one in Cottonwood. So it was really cool. The one note I'll say about the skating ring is the original park master plan for the Riverfront Park master plan called for removing it. And we received significant pushback from the community to take it out. So the community wants it. So I think one of the things that they want is for us to improve it, maybe. So one of the things that, I don't know if it fits in here for council, it goes back to that volunteerism, is to figure out how to get the community to help take care and fix and build and do things. Because like no one's really asked us told us what they want with the skate park, and if they brought dollars or if they brought the arms, the muscles and the tools, maybe we supply the supplies. So there's back to the word partnership with community groups to improve our infrastructure in our parks department.
And maybe that's how we engage some of the teenage youth, is by asking them for their opinions and for their help, because they're big enough to have some of that muscle to do some of the work. And if they, put an effort into it and they're more invested in it, then they're more likely to stay.
Increased partnership with community groups.
To improve or to install, but to improve, I guess, is our facilities, park facilities.
Sandra's got something for you.
Oh my goodness, she's killing me. Love you, ma'am. Is it the high-speed internet? So high-speed internet, millennials cite high-speed internet access as a basic staple of modern life. In rural settings, it enables long-distance learning and online business opportunities. Invest in youth priorities. Millennials, just that it's coming from her is just awesome. Millennials value socialization, so it's important for rural communities to create third spaces. Places other than home or work, such as internet cafes and microbreweries, provide entrepreneurial opportunities. More than 70% of young people want to own a business. 17% already do. Public markets, shared workspaces, financial incentives, and buy local. Campaigns are all indications of a small business friendliness and utilize peer-to-peer. She's smart.
She is. So, we're going through the biggest generational shift in the last century. Do we address it somehow in the plan? Do we address whether it's creating third spaces, as Councilperson Wilden said, or do we make some sort of affirmative statement in the quality of life section about millennials or younger generations in Cottonwood?
I think if we say embrace millennials, Doug Holst is going to walk out of the room, so we really have to tread lightly.
We've had some really negative feedback. We've had negative public feedback by calling out certain age groups
Okay.
in our strategic plan, or the perceived leaving out of certain age groups in our plan.
As far as the broadband internet issue, is that something we have any control over, or is that like we can call up Sparklight and say, please help us, but it's...
There's a big
That
push.
goes back to broadband, and we've got to have broadband.
Right.
Which we will address in infrastructure for sure.
Yeah, there's a big government push to bring that about in a lot of other entities. It's a matter of...
Wasn't the governor working on that before COVID too?
It's a known thing, and they're trying to come up with solutions. I know they're working on it, and they know we need to have it, and anybody that's going to be without it is going to be left behind. So they're working.
Can I make a suggestion on the, I agree, I'm not excited about calling out one group over another, but I think as she said, or someone said, creating that third space. So that is a priority for Parks and Rec and libraries. They exist to create the third space where people can create relationships. So, if council whether it's millennial or otherwise, if it's important for you to us to continue to do that, to create, whether it's events or locations or supporting the creation of other things, is creating that third space important?
I think the one thing this COVID thing has done this year is show us the great need for socialization of every age group and how damaging it is to eliminate it. So, yeah.
And the more spaces we can create for that, the better.
So, support the creation of, I can't type today. We still have a whole other section. Support the creation of third spaces.
I'm not sure that anybody reading that would understand
what that
what
is?
we're meeting.
Staff will work on that. We'll come back. We'll come back with you on that.
To encourage,
Yeah, this isn't necessarily the final language of the plan.
Right.
we just want to get everything down so we know what.
For increased socialization.
Put the polish to it, Ron.
Yep. Well, I have staff that is better at it.
Yeah, I think that's good.
All right, anything else under quality of life?
I think we have talked in other sectors here, though, about the variety in age ranges that we're trying to support, right?
Yeah, and don't forget, yesterday we learned, it was news to me, that we've had an increase in young people moving to the Verde Valley. That kind of, what I'm afraid of, though, if we don't get the housing problem solved, because right now they're probably living with mom and dad or together, and having roommates gets old after a while. So after COVID leaves and life gets back to normal, are we going to have the homes for them to stay? But I guess that's another day. But
Well, I think it's people coming back because of COVID. I think even before COVID, there were people coming back because the parents and grandparents are getting older and they're taking over family businesses and stuff. That's been a phenomenon that has been happening. And again, there's the new people that are moving here that want to escape the cities and have a more rural and small town lifestyle. So there's a number of different reasons, I think, for younger people moving here. But our median ages here are still much higher than everywhere else, so.
And we may be able to see an increase of people coming that are now going to be working from home forever, because even my daughter's job went to work at home, and they've said that when this is over, they're going to leave it as an option for their employees to either work in the office or work from home. So that would leave it open to her to decide to move back if she would like to, but I think more companies will do that after this pandemic. And
I
so we
agree.
may see an influx of that too over time.
Yep. I think as the dust settles on this, I think things are just going to look much, much different.
Right, I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way we used to work in the white collar world anyway. Anything else under quality of life? Do you think we can tackle infrastructure before we take a break?
Start it.
Easy. Build it.
Or should we do environment? Because
Well, I think infrastructure is going to be easy, because I think, Council, your guys' desire is for us to continue to emphasize budgeting for the improvement of our infrastructure, whether it be utilities or sidewalks or roads. You guys actually make decisions at budget time, but your priorities is that's to be a priority in budgeting, if I understand correctly.
Did just add broadband to my note here on infrastructure.
we could,
Jeff Sabatka, who was spearheading the governor's grant funding task force, and I would really encourage us to work with Clarkdale. I know Robin mentioned that internet is a priority for her, and if we can piggyback whatever trenching or whatever else expenses needs to happen. I thought we were only 4 miles from getting broadband at 100,000 per mile, something like that. So if we can somehow work collectively as a region to come up with that 400,000, if my memory serves, that would be excellent.
would that be with regard to getting it here from the project that they're doing on 17?
That was my understanding from one of the last meetings. Ron and Tim, you were both there, that we had with Jeff, and the hope was if we can get our application together, we did not have an application for the grant funding that then was awarded, but I thought there were going to be renewed funds available, and if we are watching and monitoring that and working with Clarkdale, we're so close.
Yeah, I don't know what the major trunk infrastructure looks like for that, but I know in neighborhoods like mine, new ones, new subdivisions going in, we've got fiber optic and high-speed choices in there. So I know they're here. It's just basically infilling those existing neighborhoods and
And then
places that need.
they brought it up yesterday, but VV Rio is working on a project with the cities in the Verde Valley to create broadband action teams.
Yeah, so
try to apply
Vivi
for
Rio's leading us to get to that grant, to get the money. Many of our neighborhoods are connected to the trunk, and we're good and solid, and they're improving all of that. But we have some dead spots in Cottonwood, and of course, a lot in the county areas and stuff like that. So we are head and shoulders above many areas, but we have out where Chief Gazelle lives, right outside the city there, no internet connection there on is that Cotton Candy Lane or down there by
Yeah, if you're limited to
Safeway back there
if you're
by the
limited
chamber.
to telephone lines, it's 7 megs,
Yeah.
which is abysmal in today's.
Right. The airport is missing infrastructure for broadband, and we need that up there for the industrial development. So we've got pockets, but we have an action committee that's working with VV Rio, that's working with Clarkdale, that's working with the county. It's in progress.
Should we mention it here and say support regional
I think so.
broadband initiatives?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a priority.
Prioritize?
And infrastructure development.
Not candy at all. A weak DSL on Cottonwood Street. Thank you, Chief.
Well, and it's, with COVID, it's essential for education now too, right? It's not just for,
It's everything now.
it's everything. So continue to prioritize infrastructure projects, prioritize regional and local broadband initiatives. Let's see. Do we need to say anything at this time around about the wastewater treatment plant?
No, I think if it pleases council, we'll come back with a couple other things from staff, evaluate where we're at right now, because we're in a different place today than we were 2 years ago on the plants.
I mean, I know Mingus, we need to forward think about that. A lot of money going to need to be put
Yeah,
into that plant.
Mingus needs a lot of work, but we're doing it in a connection with the water resource management, with the injection well, and yeah. I think staff could come back with some recommended action items and priorities if council doesn't mind on the.
They'll know better than us, I think.
Well, I mean, unless you've got some, the mayor looks like he's contemplating.
No, I think we're good. I mean,
EPR.
what's that?
EPR, direct potable reuse.
Yep.
Transit, do we need to have anything in here about transit? I know several of the council people talked about traffic. About today.
I thought we had our transit pretty well figured out with our new buses and so forth.
Traffic,
Is that not correct?
going to get worse. I promise.
Oh, this is, maybe this is a good spot to put in a comment about 21689A. Maybe that's because we could use that as we approach and talk to
That's an action.
elected official items and stuff, elected officials. So maybe that's for transit. It's really fixing our state-owned roads, prioritizing the maintenance and care of our state-owned roads.
Does that mean we can get rid of the roundabouts?
Hey.
No more roundabouts.
I promise
we're
only
done.
3 more coming.
Can't we eliminate them?
Roundabouts are like a government agency. Once you put them in there, they're there to stay.
I know.
Stop it.
We used to have a
I
55
got
mile an
access to
hour
a
speed limit,
tractor.
now we have a
It's a fixable
25.
problem.
I still haven't given up hoping to have Cottonwood more signage for Cottonwood off of the I-17. That's a topic, though, for if we ever have our state folks back, because I mentioned at that last meeting, Barville on and off ramps, which are treacherous at best, in my opinion, driving that way a lot, but then also having a more visible spot for Cottonwood on signage off the 17. I don't think that needs to be specifically here, I just want to make sure I'm.
Well, I think increased signage for Cottonwood and our attractions might be a good priority because it goes beyond the I-17. We've heard from the OTA for more signage down to bring us to Old Town. And I mean, if it pleases council, I think it's a priority for you guys.
Yeah, it's been a priority for a while.
Additional signage.
Is that in infrastructure?
Well, it's on our infrastructure.
I don't know where else we would put it.
Yep. Is this the same as the wayfinding signs for Old Town, and or is that?
I'll fit it under there probably.
Okay.
But what she's specifically talking about is getting Cottonwood on I-17 and some of those exits more.
Want it on Beaver?
I did want it on Beaverhead Flat as well. I'd like it everywhere.
Put it right in front of the Welcome to Camp Verde sign, is that? Yeah.
Put it over it.
I read, well, anyway. I forgot we're live.
I should have brought that up in the first hour, huh?
Yes, you should have.
Oscar, I think you're okay because you're sitting far away from the mic.
Yes, I keep getting texts from Debbie. I can't hear you. That's probably good, Debbie.
Okay. And last time we had something about City Hall under infrastructure. It didn't seem like there was a lot of will to include that this time. I don't want to speak for you, though.
Include what?
City Hall,
City
new
Hall.
City Hall, and
I have enough will to go around for the rest of council.
All
I think
right.
Tim probably does, but
This would
I
be
think
the
it's time
chamber.
to start to talk about it too.
This would
I think it needs to be on there.
this would be a third of this already.
Right, Tosca?
You know, a couple of years ago, I would have said no because of the financial position, but we have done well, so I think it's time to start talking about it.
Well, and situations have changed too, if I understand correctly from yesterday, that we might want to be thinking in that direction.
Yes, but to be honest with you, I'd hate to get specific for the strategic plan because if that doesn't work out, there's another idea about building a standalone city hall behind our current location, creating a town square, connection to Old Town. So I think there's lots of options. I guess the real question is a consolidated city hall still a priority for city council? Staff will continue to pursue and consider options.
And if I can address the Vice Mayor's point and Councilmember Nairn's, I have always been a strong supporter of having the discussion and having a plan of this is our goal, here's how we're going to pay for it. What we lived through the last time around was folks approaching us saying, we think this would be a perfect city hall, and we didn't have the plan to get there. We didn't, where are we getting the money from and the time? But we're never going to get there if we don't have the discussion. So although folks take me as an ardent opposer to a consolidated city hall, I think I've tried to be clear. We just need to have a strategic plan on how we're going to accomplish that.
And to be fair, I've always understood it as your opinion as being exactly that.
I gotcha. I'm feeling you, Matthews.
And if I can no. So council, does it make the board?
Yes.
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 Are we exploring? Are we pursuing?
We're moving in.
Yeah.
We need to start the planning. We need to start planning and looking forward ahead to a consolidated city hall.
Yeah, and we have started planning. I mean, we said we were going to sell off properties. We said we're going to put that money into a pot that we would later use, to fund a city hall. So we've started planning, but we need to really kind of, identify some real options and.
We need to identify how much we want in City Hall.
So how about start identifying options? We need to start moving forward. I don't think anybody would object to.
I can pay someone to make a plan.
Great funding plan? I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is we don't have a strategic plan to how we're going to pay for it.
Identifying what we need and how we're going to pay for it. So however that's worded, that's included. I think the funding plan is included in
Yeah.
identifying options, because I think we're clear that we can identify the options, but that also comes with the strategy to get there.
Options and a strategy for funding.
City Hall facility and lights in the Old Town Activity Park. I think those should go hand in hand.
If it pleases council, put it on there.
Dead silence.
I know, I'm like, if it pleases
Oh, no,
council, put it on there.
Okay with
I can
that.
tell you, ma'am, that we, this is kind of important because we have, are very close to finishing some options for paving the parking lot behind City Hall. So if and when we can do that, and we have cost estimates coming for the next budget process, we would try to get some light in the park, in the activity park. So if we're going to build a city hall back there, we might hold off on the parking lot. So it's important in our strategic development of our CIP project list. So this is important, and it does go together. The other thing, remember, we talked about yesterday, one of the options we're considering for the CDBG funds is lighting towers that would be portable until we get some permanent solutions. Kids park, activity park, you name it, Riverfront Park during events. So one of the options, if we can pull it off, depending on lots of things. But one of the options on that list yesterday was light towers.
We're going to repave that parking lot back there. My truck's outside. If they want to measure that first and then draw lines, that would be cool.
That's not, we do it
Little bit.
backwards. We do
Little
it
bit.
backwards. Don't park where your truck's too.
That's the only place I can park. Don't fix it.
If you sit outside at the front patio now at the Belfry, the dust coming off that parking lot mixes really good with a good IPA.
God, I get picked on a lot. We're working on that solution too. So we're waiting for the owners to finish up there, and we're thinking about putting some stuff down to help with that. So it's on our plan, even if we don't pave it, to improve that. But we were kind of waiting for the construction to be done and to get there. But it is on our Public Works list of things to cut down on, which is dust back there. We're on it. Lighting, dust control, parking that
Wider
fits,
parking.
wider parking, on it.
Like 3 spots, dually parking only, we're good.
So should we take a stretch break?
Yes.
And then come back and we're going to bang out environment and what we need under there, any other specific strategies, and then how we're going to sum all this up.
Easy.
Easy peasy.
I don't know how.
Mr. Corbin will be back shortly, and Councilperson Henry had to step out for a minute, but she asked that we continue on without her, and she'll come back and join in just a little while. So what we have left for the rest of the day is to finish up the 2 goal areas and see what specific strategies we want to include under those, and then somehow wrap it up and identify kind of what are the 3 main things that come out of this, okay? So the next area is what I was calling environment. I'm no pride of authorship. We can call it whatever you feel is best. But in the prior plan, we talked about water use and reuse, and as I suggested earlier, perhaps it's more than that. And I think what we said this morning in terms of the goal, and I'm sorry, it's impossible for you guys to read, continue our stewardship of the natural resources. So if we're continuing our stewardship of the natural resources, what specific strategies do we need to make that happen?
Water good.
Excuse me?
I think it's been a long day for some.
Water is good.
We need to hire and do a study and a plan on water, I think. I'm just kidding.
Right.
So last time we were talking about investing in water infrastructure, becoming a leader in water use, reuse and education, engaging the community, and emphasizing the Verde River when promoting Cottonwood. Those are the 4 major subtopics.
I know this one is already a priority we're working on, but I'm going to bring it up again, the direct potable reuse at the new sewer plant.
Yeah.
That's, I think, a very big priority of moving forward with that.
I heard that we're getting close to getting certification for that. Is that incorrect?
Water.
Can we define close? So we have, are working on some contracts with some of our federal partners and our state partners. We have submitted some paperwork for the Mingus plant. We are moving down the path, however long that takes. But so part of, we discussed earlier, infrastructure improvement for utilities. So when we talk about Mingus plant, which the Vice Mayor was referring to, we're actually considering direct potable water reuse as part of that.
Right.
So whatever work we do, hopefully will be together, that we won't have to redesign. So
I guess
it's
maybe
probably
that-
not close, but we are actively working on it, and we should have contracts at some point for council to review.
That might have been more appropriate under infrastructure, I guess. And it wouldn't be increase, it would be implement.
No, I think,
We're not doing it now.
yeah, it's not increased, but I
think it's
think
okay on
environment's
that?
appropriate. I think that's where it goes.
Okay.
It's because we'll also use, so how do we pay for it? We have our water development fund.
It's an overlapping issue, so that's fine.
Anything else with respect to water specifically?
Continuing to make sure we're using our effluent to the best use. I'm not sure what we're doing with the Mingus plant as far as our effluent. What's the plan up there?
Injection,
So, right. So the injection will be a part, and then hopefully direct potable water reuse will be the other, and that'll be all. Right. So right now we water. So the reason the wine tastes so good from the college, it's our water. I know that we water some other things in Clarkdale with our direct potable water use. We have construction water available up there. So I think if we continue to appropriately use reuse water.
And how far out are we on those injection wells?
So actually very close these days. So for the last year, we've been trying to get an engineer to build it. And so finally we have some plans, I believe, that we've been reviewing. So we finally got our third engineering firm to design it. We're there, we're close, very close.
Continue to utilize reuse water whenever appropriate or whenever possible, or just continue to utilize reuse water?
understand well injection and that reuse. I know Cottonwood Ranch in my neighborhood use that water for their irrigation, common area irrigation.
Yeah, I'm curious too what our infrastructure looks like is in terms of purple pipe. You know, I don't know that I've really looked at that in a long time. Are there any opportunities to expand that or improve upon it?
So we haven't finished our last set of plans on those. So, for example, when we talk about purple pipe, and so this is back down at the riverfront plant using that water, we still haven't connected to the cemetery. So one of our big projects for using the reuse versus well water is the cemetery. It'll be a big deal. So it's still on our to-do list and working with the Nature Conservancy and others to help pay for that. And we have some land easements, lots of, you think it'd be simple, it's not, but we are actively working on that project. We're actively working on the ball field still. So we have, David proposed something to me the other day to help pay for that. We can't use the CDBG funds like we had planned to put purple pipe and do that at the plant because the plant's not yet consistently producing A+ water. So whatever we use the CDBG funds for has to be working by August. And so while we expect it to be, I mean, we're making great headways in that water with our little creatures from China that we have at that plant. It's not fixed yet. And so we couldn't use CDBG funds. So we found another source to pay for that. And then we have the cemetery for the riverfront plant. And then for Mingus, we have the injection well, plus all the other purple pipe we have going to the grapes, to the neighborhoods and those kinds of things. But if we get direct potable water reuse, that'll take care of most of our effluent. With our injection well, direct potable water use, that should handle most of our effluent. So there won't be, I guess, no need to expand the purple pipe from that plant. And we will reuse all of the water from Riverfront once it's working.
If we spend another $15 million, can we get that plant working?
We will get that plant working without spending 15 more million. So if it pleases council, we can come and give you an update on that. Right now it has to do, and Tom's going to laugh. Actually, Tom's not at work today, so he's not listening. So Roger may laugh at me. He's listening. But it's a protozoan, and I don't know if it's the right word, but there's a bug that we killed. And so we're close to getting rid of it. We had to buy some purple spray, and it's just, I can have Tom come update, but we got it working. And then we were getting E. coli numbers again, so we tried to figure out what it was, and it's a protozoan. It's a thing, a live thing, that is creating a hard shell in one of its life cycles that is attaching itself to all sorts of stuff in the system. And then what happens is when the water goes through the UV chamber to be sterilized, to be cleaned, it's blocking some of the ultraviolet lights. So the E. coli was slipping through. So we've been working to get rid of that bug. So it's not actually even a mechanical thing right now. It's a water content thing that we're working through. That's why we believe we're really close. Earlier in the year when Tom first took over, it worked with Roger and team to fix the mechanical issues we were still having, which is why we thought we were good to go. And then this thing showed up from, I think it's a Chinese something. I can't give you the name.
Figures.
So I would rather wait just a little bit longer till I have an outcome, and then we'll come to council and explain what happened, and we're ready to go. But because nothing's 100%, we couldn't use CDBG funds for that because of this bug.
What about surface water rights? Do we want to try to buy a couple acre feet of those?
If it pleases council, we can keep that on a priority.
I think we should pursue any opportunities there are to bank those.
I didn't hear that, sir. I'm sorry.
I think we should pursue any opportunities there are to bank those.
Yes. Not many opportunities arise, but we can absolutely continue. I can think of one far chance one that might happen, and we are we're aware of it and have our eyes on it and have made some contacts and stuff like that. But We don't know if it's going to come to fruition or not.
Where are we at with adjudication? Is this COVID thing kind of put the brakes on
No, sir.
the timeline? No?
No. Again, I feel like I'm really not the right person to update you on it, but we are moving on it. I thought I sent a timeline to council 3 or 4 months ago, but the administrative judge,
Special master.
Thank you. Special master, right? Has a timeline now for the Verde Valley. So there's a timeline out there now for resolving many issues in the Verde Valley. And so there are people who say it should happen in our lifetime now, where it's adjudicated.
I thought we were going to court within a couple of years.
Yes,
a year
that
ago.
timeline does show that.
Okay.
So
I know
whether it
that
moves
doesn't
through
mean
the
resolution.
court or not, but it is, they expect it to move much faster than it did in the previous places because many of the questions that had to be answered have now been answered and have been decided. And so as each decision is decided, whether it's subflow or the millions of things that have to be answered, most of those are being resolved as it goes through. So when it gets up here, it's really any unique questions as they arise up here. And really it has to do, I guess, if you really wanted an action item, encourage, lobby the state to fund ADWR and the courts. Because ADWR, I believe, is the one that's tasked with doing all the work for the courts on water. They do all the studies and they do the processing, they answer the questions. And they are short-staffed and have been for a while. So if you really wanted to prevent any slowdown in adjudication, it might be one of those action items, which is to encourage the state to fund agencies that impact adjudication. If you're looking for something for adjudication.
Agencies to what adjudication?
That
Impact?
support and agencies that support the adjudication process, which is mostly ADWR, but I believe the courts also need help. And we'll fine tune this when the person better at this than me is in here.
A couple other things that there's kind of pet projects of mine. I don't know if council's interested or not, but we do set money aside in everybody that pays a water bill for the water development fund, I think, or resource development fund. We've talked in the past about doing like a turf to zero escape program or installing low flow shower heads, low flow toilets, that kind of thing. And I think we have some partners in the community that would help put a program like that in place. But we don't really do a lot of that. I'm just curious, we've really focused more on, the very important things of fixing our infrastructure and, making sure that that we are pumping the effluent back where it needs to go to the aquifer, et cetera. But those little programs, though they're not going to have a huge impact on how much water is pumped from the aquifer, they will have some impact. But I think they're important in just creating that culture of conservationism in our community. And I'd like to see us take a stronger role in putting those programs in place.
Comments? This is what a tactic might look like.
I mean, can there be a whole lot of plumbing fixtures out there that aren't already low flow? Because those have been out on the market for a long time. I think longer than the life of most plumbing fixtures already.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a great thing. I don't know how much, I don't think it'll have any impact. I just don't think there's a big demand.
Yeah, we'd have to think, but we could combine it with the a program to help ensure when we rebuild older structures, that program that like the Habitat for Humanity has, we can just make sure that those are low flow fixtures and those kinds of things. If council, if this is what council desires. I think, Mayor, you also talked about reducing green yard.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I don't have all the answers or I don't know all the programs that other communities do, but I know we we have a fund that can help, fund these programs, and getting rid of lawns, which are, huge users of potable water. I mean, why not try to make a difference? And I think more than that, in my opinion anyway, it goes a long way to, again, just keeping conservation top of mind for all of our residents. If they know these programs are supported by the city, if they have neighbors that have participated in a program where they've got rid of their grass, they put in some nice xeriscaping, I think it just help us.
So it hasn't risen to the top of our to-do list, but that's what this is for. If council wants us to work on that, put it on there, and we'll get on it. Be happy to make you guys happy. Councilmember Wilden had a couple more things. APS is into that kind of thing in a big way and would be definitely help. Also entails light bulbs, which we've worked with them. I know that when the fire station does their open house, APS shows up and hands out, energy efficient light bulbs and kinds of stuff. So
Support local programs to increase a culture of conservation.
It's fine.
Anything else on the environment? Do you want to say anything about sustainable tourism, or is that too much?
Did we talk about sustainable tourism in the quality of life where we discussed?
We talked
economic
about
development, I think.
Yeah, we talked about outdoor economics.
That would be a good place to put it if we wanted to, either in a note, the sub-bullet point under support outdoor economics, sustainable tourism, or I don't know if you think it merits its own larger bullet point.
I think it could fit there, yeah.
I don't know. I have to think of a better word. To promote.
Okay, so now you're going to have to answer the question, what the heck is sustainable tourism?
I think she explained it much more eloquently than I, but basically so you don't overuse, so you lose. Michelle, is that her name from?
Conway, yeah.
Yeah, from the Sedona Chamber of Commerce, so that we don't ruin what we have, so we don't have too many hikers on there. So, for example, the reason I love their sustainability plan, their tourism sustainability plan, it includes regional tourism. So part of their plan for tourism is to push people out into Cottonwood and Clarkdale and Camp Verde and, out of Africa and the train. So, yeah, come, stay in their hotel maybe, but, have dinner and wine in Cottonwood or go up to Jerome for dinner. So as part of their plan is they want to reduce their own traffic, by getting people out into the Verde Valley. So it actually helps us for our tourism. But their goal is to to prevent an overuse of their own
So we want to
natural.
support their sustainable tourism, which brings in more tourism for us.
Yes.
Okay, I'm all for that.
So, and when I use that term, I think more along the lines of what the mayor said this morning. Let's not overlove the river. Let's make sure folks can use it responsibly. We have good river access points and et cetera, but let's not, let's organize and make sure that we're using it in a manner that doesn't, ruin the resource.
Just encouraging through signage and otherwise to have tourists pack it in, pack it out, and leave no trace. And
Yeah, I don't think we've come close to having an issue with that. It's more our indigenous homeless population.
So I think it's mixed. I think that there's not an overuse, but I think there's an undercare. So we don't have, and this goes back to our conversation earlier about volunteerism and getting people to help with the trails, is, for example, we got a complaint of some trash up off the Cliff Rose Trail. It's county. It's not our trail, not our property. It's not really our responsibility, but it's right there in Cottonwood. And so, we go out and try to help. So I think that there's not an overuse, but there's a lack of care. And I know that David is going to ask for some funds to, not for staff, but to make sure that we can take care of the trails that are inside the city limits to improve things and have volunteer programs or whatever, or trash bags or additional cans. So we're going to do stuff already, and this, everything you guys have said today matches that. So I don't know that there's an overuse yet in Cottonwood, but we've seen it, an undercare of the trail system.
Okay. Last but not least, financial. What's next? What guidance do you need, Ron?
I'm good on this one. I think they just want to make sure it remains a priority.
I think it will.
Yes, sir.
The only thing I'll add is that, like we all talked about, just getting that document to the public in a manner that the public can easily understand.
So maybe continue to improve the usability and readability and usability of our budget for the general public?
Really, like, what was it called that our finance director showed us, the little snapshot for council? And we're putting that on our website so that folks have a kind of up-to-date snapshot of our finances. I think that would be something new, perhaps. I don't remember what it was called.
I don't know that we have a name for it. It's our now a monthly budget update. So it's just, I get, increase budget information to the community, or ensure budget updated budget information is available to the community. And I don't know if you guys want this to be an item in here, but I heard you guys talking about staff recommending or coming up with a savings level, reserve levels that was appropriate, and so that we can begin to reallocate to future projects or growth or whatever the next thing is. I don't know if that needs to be on here or not, but it is something I heard you guys ask for.
A goal for reserves, yeah.
Yes, no, tell her. Yes, ma'am.
Do you need any guidance with regard to
Lots.
with regard to staffing from a budget perspective? Like, do you anticipate additional or different staffing?
That's up to them. If they want to put something in here, I think what they want is appropriate, right-sized organization, not too big government, but provide the right level of service. So I don't know if it needs to be, that's up to you guys if you want to articulate that. I feel good with direction, and I know they aren't afraid to tell me no if the answer is no, so it's up to them.
You can add something in there, because I know it's a priority of yours to get, to continue to right-size the organization. I know we have some areas that still need addressed.
There are. I think community development, especially as we continue to grow with development, is probably going to need a little help. I think once we get fully staffed in our police department, we're going to have to make some decisions there. We probably need a little expansion there to continue to support our partners in PENT and the training programs and all those kinds of things. So I just think that there's a couple other areas that probably can make a few more small downsize, but I'll continue to. We still have the rule that vacancies have to be approved by me before they're announced. So we still look at every vacancy on a case-by-case basis, so.
I don't know what happened.
Jack?
What I wrote was continue to right-size city staffing consistent with community needs.
See, that was just too, that was just too much. That was too much.
It's a sign.
You guys are done.
Shutting it down now.
That crossed a line, apparently.
Staff has spoken. That's awesome.
Where the real control lies.
It is.
All right. I'm not sure how to show these in a way that we can easily.
We were almost to that big salary increase.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot of things. We have goals in terms of growth, quality of life, infrastructure, environment, and financial. What I'd like to do, and it might be aspirational, is for all of us to come out of here today, and if someone said, okay, council, what are the top goals that you have for the next 2 years? What might they be? Way for you to more easily see what we've come up with so
Marcy, before we go on, did you want to double check to see if there was any big missed things?
far. One item that we talked about during the break was our role with regard to nonprofits and ensuring that they communicate and we're communicating with them, and that they're communicating each other, and that we're leveraging them as much as possible so that to the extent that they're providing services to the community that saves the city from providing those services, that we're aware of that. Not sure where that would go.
Life would be my guess, because I think that's integral if we have good information about services available.
There's one thing that we were going to possibly bring up that hasn't been brought up yet, was about talking about what we wanted, that money that we grant to different organizations in town, whether there's any desire to go into talking about what our goals are for that and how that might look, how it might stay the same or change. I don't.
So he's referring to the CARES Act money that we got, the 1.4, I think it was, million. So if we have time today, I'd love to have feedback.
Nope.
That's not what he's talking
Annual
about.
That's the $100,000 that we.
Thank you. So the plan, sorry, Vice Mayor, the plan for that, we're going to come back in January.
Okay.
We figured we didn't have enough time today on this. So because we actually want to talk about the grading criteria to see if you're happy, it'll be a little more detailed. So our thought was unless you guys really want to go there, but Jeff is prepared to bring that and actually have a good discussion in January. If that's okay, it'll be its own agenda item.
Yeah, I think we want to continue the program, but there was just questions on, again, the matrix and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yep. And then, well, since we brought it up, at some point, we haven't talked about that 1.4 million CARES that's sitting there. Lots of things, reserves and otherwise. But I think that council, at some point, will have to give us direction. We can give you a couple ideas. But that is available to be budgeted next year.
Future work session or something.
Yeah, I think
Could be.
so.
Yeah.
To get back to this nonprofit issue, is that what you're trying to type out here?
So it's coordinating local nonprofit efforts. To what end?
So there's, what I've noticed, and I'm sure a lot of you have noticed, there's just a lot of duplication of efforts. There's a lot of duplication of efforts with our nonprofits, is what I've noticed in my experience in working with many of them. And it's no fault of their own. I think they're just, they're all wearing many multiple hats and doing the best they can. But it seems like, and again, not necessarily the city's role, but some kind of a coordinator or a liaison amongst those nonprofits that could just help get everybody together so they know what resources are available and who's doing kind of what, who's on first, who's on second, who's best suited to do this, that, or the other, so that there's just not so much, again, duplication. And it feels like a whole lot more could be done if there was just better coordination. Does that make sense?
It does, but I think there might be a roadblock there. It's going to be kind of like the school consolidation thing. There's no real true nonprofit. Those people are making a living off of those. And I think if you go in there and you try to talk about combining them, they're going to get real territorial.
I don't necessarily mean combining. I just mean that, you know, even when it comes to applying for grants and things like that, if they could just not be combined, but join forces in applying for certain grants, or just, you know, like food sharing and all this kind of thing. We have 3 or 4 different nonprofits that are involved in just that alone, in addition to all the other things that they do. I'm not trying to take anyone's turf away. I think it just, better coordination, I think, might yield bigger results in our community.
So to jump in on that, one topic we haven't discussed is our homeless situation. And I think if we had better coordination among the nonprofits, you know, Verde Valley Homeless Coalition wants to now have a homeless shelter. And how do they go about doing that? And I think if we were better coordinated amongst our nonprofits with the entire community, that would be an easier task to achieve. So I think that kind of rolls into what you're talking about too. If we can coordinate them somehow, then they can help each other more. I don't think they're talking to each other enough. And I agree, we need somebody to spearhead that too.
Sounds like Jackie's just volunteered.
I second that.
Those two, I would be happy to lead that effort too. And those are the two things I would love to walk out of here and say, I will lead those efforts. If you all approve of that and allow me to. Oh, don't think that I won't reach out for help when I need it, because I will.
Again, the way I think this overlaps with what we do is, one, we do provide funding for a lot of these nonprofits, and they do provide service back to the city that in some cases we would either have to do, or we'd just be straddled with the economic burden that's left in the wake of them not being able to provide the service. So I think I can justify spending some staff time, or spending your time, since it's not my time, on investing in that kind of coordination effort, because I think it is going to help us out financially and definitely socially in our community. So again, I don't think it's 100% a city role, but if it is something that you would want to take on, it's just like even just a couple roundtable discussions of getting the nonprofits together and figuring out, and maybe they could pool their own resources and hire a coordinator.
Well, and with my 20 years of history of working in nonprofits as a social worker, I think that will help me to lead that effort. And I know many of the nonprofits and the leaders of those organizations here from my work at Catholic Charities. So I think that I could be useful in that role.
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Wilden, I forgot, her and I talked about this. She's got a contact of another city that's done something like this. So we'll support you, and it sounds like she's not, I can't say she volunteered to help, but at least she has the knowledge that can also help us.
I'll call you, Debbie.
I hope it's more successful than community engagement, not for lack of effort.
Oh, I have some ideas about that too that I'm ready to implement.
She says sure.
Okay.
Great.
Anything else that we missed?
Support local banks. Did I say that? Councilmember Wilden. I should change my voice when I'm speaking for Councilmember Wilden says support local banks.
Does that mean try to move our city monies into local bank?
That is what that means.
How many local banks do we have?
1 or 2. So we've had a discussion with senior staff deputy Rudy Rodriguez and Kirsten are looking at moving some money over. It would be very difficult to move, and
I know this conversation came up in the past.
right. So we're a city, and we have an exceptional amount of services that we need from a bank. And for many of those, a large bank is what we need. And it's to save taxpayers dollars. The contract we currently have guarantees us the same best deal of any other city in the state. So we have a pretty good contract now. But that said, we have some reserves, we have some savings, some investment stuff that we can put into local bank. And my team has made a commitment that they're looking into that, and we will make that happen. Rudy, this year, no, next year, it's already December. Next year, we'll make this happen in the calendar year 21. How's that? I'm on the record.
I just want to say I really appreciate that. It's been important to me for a lot of years, and the reason why is, I think we're all kind of friends with Local First and their mission, but they're a big proponent of this. And if you just they're not saying move all the your municipal finances into a small bank. I recognize that's just not feasible. But if you look around locally, like we heard from Mark Tufte yesterday, the gentleman that pushed the PPP loans that helped save D&O Crane, she confessed yesterday, they're still in business because of that, because of Mark Tufte. The brewery that you enjoy those IPAs at, it was 1AZ that financed that. It wasn't B of A or any of these other banks. They just don't finance those types of local businesses. And so if we do have money that's literally sitting in a bank, in reserves, I don't see any harm in moving that over to a local bank that's going to help invest in breweries and businesses here.
Agreed.
So
very
maybe
much.
we need to put that down, Marcy, under budgeting, because it would be a budgeting decision to move some resources to savings to or investments to a local bank. That way it's documented. If it so pleases council.
Pleased.
Utilize local banks for some city reserves and savings.
Yes. For me.
Financial institutions in general, so if it were a credit union.
Oh, got it.
And Rudy and Kirsten have not, Rudy said, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
He's on board.
So maybe I'll just kind of, I won't belabor everything, but slowly go through everything that we talked about today and then see what stands out as our kind of key initiatives. So we talked about growth. We're going to focus on retention of our existing businesses and providing them support and training. We're going to continue the messaging that we're open for business. We're going to conduct a needs assessment survey in partnership with the Chamber for local businesses. For travel and tourism marketing, we're going to continue with the current direction, help tourism-oriented businesses to succeed. We're going to support outdoor economics and efforts to promote sustainable tourism. We're going to evaluate all opportunities for annexation that are presented to council. We're going to pursue the development of a regional housing authority, explore more diversity in housing solutions where appropriate, and be more open to regulatory flexibility for housing. We're going to continue to support educational institutions and organizations engaged in workforce development and continue with the current airport initiatives. Focus on quality of life still. We're going to ensure that our events are consistent with our brand. We're going to pursue a signature wine event, encourage volunteerism in areas of interest that are consistent with our brand, offer awareness and educational programs for residents, support and expand the police department neighborhood program, increase partnership with community groups to improve facilities, support the creation of third spaces for increased socialization, and coordinate local nonprofit efforts to reduce and eliminate redundancies. For the environment, we're going to implement potable water reuse at the wastewater treatment plant, expand well injection and water reuse, pursue opportunities to acquire surface water rights, encourage the state to fund agencies that support adjudication of process, and support local programs to increase a culture of conservation. For infrastructure, we're going to continue to prioritize infrastructure projects. We're going to prioritize regional and local broadband initiatives, focus on maintenance and care of state-owned roads, develop additional signage for Cottonwood on regional roads and interchanges, and identify options and strategy options and a strategy for funding a consolidated city hall facility. And for financial, we're going to continue to improve the readability and usability of the budget for the general public, ensure that the updated budget information is available to the community, develop a goal for reserves, continue to right-size city staffing consistent with community needs, and utilize local financial institutions for some city reserves and savings. I mean, to me, the continued themes are growth in a smart and managed way. Continued focus on economic development, continued conservative financial decisions. I mean, if someone were to ask you what came out of your strategic planning efforts today, what do you think are the 3 keys? That would be great.
Come up with?
Or I can take them down on, we could do the good old flip chart.
So what do you want from us, Marcy? You want us to?
How about fiscal stewardship?
Fiscal stewardship. I don't know.
It sounded like school.
Yeah, I heard school in there.
I think strategizing around our economic development initiatives is something that I think we discussed a lot today.
Gain strategic growth, maybe collaboration.
I mean, these three are great guideposts.
Partnership and collaboration. So I think if someone, you said if someone, you walk outside and someone says, what's your takeaway? I think I would almost add increased collaboration. Always or exploring, increased exploration of collaboration opportunities or partnership opportunities.
What I see coming up on the board there is kind of already our overarching 5-point
I didn't hear
goal
what you
here.
said, sorry.
Well, we're kind of just rehashing our 5 points up
5
there.
points.
I was thinking more along the line of what if each of us, the 3 kind of pet projects or more focused things were. That's kind of what I thought you were asking for.
You want to do it that way? Like, what are the 3 most important to each of you?
No, I
Walking away?
think that would work.
It'd be a good way to gather up what you did say you wanted us to leave here with like 3 things that Ron had to do before the end of the week, right?
Absolutely.
Support him. Don't.
Well, why don't we go around and do, what are the 3 things that are most important to each of you? And then we'll see what comes out of that.
I gave you my 3.
Okay.
They're
Financial
items 1,
stewardship.
3, and 4.
Okay. Councilmember Holst? You have 3 priorities?
Give you the eighth grade answer?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Okay.
I would go along with the economic development. Strategic growth is important.
Sorry to ask you to do this at the end of the day.
That's all right. And I think I would go along with increased collaboration between Cottonwood, our local nonprofits, and collaborating with the other governments within the Verde Valley.
I heard culture a lot today too, in different contexts. I don't know if that resonates with all of you, but in terms of the citizen engagement and economic development and collaboration, I felt like culture was kind of an underlying theme. But also, I don't know, just throw that out there.
While he's thinking, well, I can still read. Councilmember Wilden said, growth, financial stability, and business assistance.
Yeah, the business, I had business support, business assistance is critical too on my list. I'm excited about the council's impetus on the trail improvements, trail and infrastructure improvements, and the brand solidification too.
I guess mine's just more laser focused. The 3 things that I'm thinking about is seeing continued improvements with our roads and our sidewalks and infilling. I just think it makes our whole town look really good to our residents and to visitors. I'm kind of excited about the potential of airport economic growth and the potential that's over there. I'd like to kind of see that go, and I am kind of excited, and I think it's necessary that we really do look at starting to move forward on plans for a new city hall. So those 3 things kind of stand out.
Collaborations, sustainability, and smart growth.
Strategic growth, increasing communication between the community and the non-for-profits, and making sure we don't overlap and everything gets taken care of where we can. Economic development.
Pretty much everything is equally important, Ron, so.
Got it.
Yep.
You said by end of the week, Friday, Saturday?
I think
He said
5
5
o'clock.
o'clock.
We'll give you till the end of next week. Come on.
You got an hour.
Time.
We have faith.
Well, of everything we talked about, though, there have to be a few things that we can get done sooner rather than later. And obviously,
And by sooner, we mean 3 to 6 months.
6 months.
By the end of take to the end of the year.
So off of this little list that you have,
No, I mean, out of everything we talked about today, it could be a little tactic. Maybe it's, Councilperson Nairn's focus groups for collaboration among nonprofits. That's something that could probably happen in the next.
Yes, and probably can get started pretty quickly.
Hosting a meeting on housing authority, I think that's something that could easily be coordinated, don't you think, Ron?
A meeting on the Housing Authority?
Well, if we're going to pull the nonprofits together, and they'll have a lot to say about Housing Authority too, so I think that that can sort of roll into that somehow as well. But we need to get more information about all that, and I need to dig back in my brain for some of that from meetings I was attending a few years ago, but I do have a contact for that. So let me start to get some information. Aside from the nonprofits, there's a few other entities we'd want to invite to the table for the discussion about the Housing Authority too, I think.
I just meant with Clifton and the other municipalities, not like a.
Okay. Yeah, that too. We do need to involve the other municipalities.
So is the win that we have a meeting about it? Or like, what is something we can do in 3 to 6 months to, we decided we're not going to be a leader, but to pursue it further?
Yeah, kickoff meeting, I think could
So,
happen.
and I think we can get back to council. So I think we can present something to council on a housing authority, what it is, what it does, what it would take. Maybe not quite the plan, but maybe the cost estimates, maybe the partnerships that would be involved at the municipality level, the county. So I could get something back to council by June.
Forgot from yesterday, and I didn't write it down, when our portion or when the regional housing study was going to be available. Is that in the next 3 to 6 months?
Was that the housing study, ma'am? So we're going to do the survey kicks off in January, and I can't remember how long we have it open. 3 months, maybe 6 months, but clearly that would be, we could get that done within 6 months. I mean, more likely 3. Well, December, January, so 4.
Have that discussion, I thought, about the vice mayor, about the plan for a city hall in the next month, right?
January 12th at the latest work session on the current option. I'm not saying it's the option, but a current option for a city hall.
I'm having a hard time remembering what was on the list of things we came up with, but I know there's a bunch of little small wins.
So you're saying I don't have to worry about it?
No. Not at all what I'm saying. I mean, some of the trails are going to be done here before too long.
Yes, so Riverfront Trail should be finished by June. I mean, I think it'll be before June, it'll be by spring. So we've awarded it. No, you guys award it Tuesday night, you award it. So we'll start that. So it'll be done in 3 months, the Riverfront Trail. I also know there's some trail signage they're working on for the wayfinding. So one of our trails will be completed in the next 6 months. Well, one segment of our trails will be completed.
The chamber moving and then you're setting up that satellite office in the near future, or is that a longer term?
No, we're waiting for everybody to get out of COVID jail to finish making that happen. But yeah, we're very close. We've got it cleaned up, ready for them to move in. So we're just kind of waiting for, so.
Are the wayfinding signs, I heard several things about that. Is that going to happen in the next?
I would not want that on the short term, but council can put it on the short term. They can tell me what to do, but we have obstacle after obstacle on that. Not unsurmountable, but just obstacles.
Anything on the signature wine event? Not that you're going to.
We have it scheduled for February. I'm kidding. I don't know
Maybe
if
it's not a good
council.
time.
March.
You're so generous. I don't know what would be deliverable in 6 months.
It's so hard to do anything event-wise right now. Maybe that's not a good candidate for the short-term goal list.
The banks, I can try to get that in
Oh,
6
yeah.
months.
Great, super.
Sorry, Rudy. And we could try to get the trails volunteerism going within 6 months.
if you accomplished,
I'm sorry?
Get that skating ring operational?
We can put a group together because something like that we don't have budgeted. So if we put it in the budget, it wouldn't be till July that we could do anything. But what I think that goes back to the volunteerism.
Get a group together?
To get a group together to and figure out what they want to do and what we can do, kind of thing. We might be able to get that done by June.
so
Marcy, tell them to stop.
you're filling your plate up. I think if you accomplish these 6 things, that would be pretty good.
Can you add? I think it's doable. Add next to trails, skating ring. Don't know what that looks like, but we'll figure something out. Councilmember Karat is the lead on that.
Is there anything that Councilperson Wilden would like to add to the short-term win list?
Oh, she did put notes in here.
Is she adding anything, Ron, or is she?
No, I just texted her to make sure she heard us. Councilmember Wilden, did you have anything to add for short-term goals?
So I think we have a pretty decent plan in place. After this, I will clean up the notes, provide them to Mr. Corbin to finalize. And is there anything else that we need to accomplish today? Wouldn't be the worst thing if we finished up a little early.
Marcy and Sandra, I've got a technical question. There was some good stuff put in the chat boxes. Is there any way to print or save the chats?
I don't know how to do that on Zoom. I don't know how to do that on.
Well, let's just not close it out until we can take care of it after the meeting, but I just want to make sure we don't, that we can capture some of that.
There's a little 3 dots that if you hit it, you could save it and download.
Ron, I would just ask you, is this, I know that you were looking for some more specific direction. Does this give you and your staff a document that you feel comfortable with, that you can work with? I know this isn't complete, we're going to bring it back, but I mean, is this?
Yes, I think that there's questions you guys are going to have to answer over the next couple of weeks, but I think we talked about housing, which has always been this nebulous, this thing that's out there, and I think we talked about some good things today that will help us. I heard a lot about balanced growth, balanced decision-making in annexation and development and really thinking through. I also thought it was very interesting that I heard this time that I didn't hear last time, which was that small town feel. While I think there are some diversity in what that means, I think that it did ring through today that council wants to, no matter, we're going to grow. I think several of you said we're going to grow. And I think we'll grow better than the county would grow because it's going to grow. So do we want to be a part of that conversation or let the county do it? So we can do it and do what we can to keep that small town feel, that culture, I think, as Marcy mentioned earlier. So that was very interesting for me today to hear and for our staff to hear. I also think there were other littler things in there that staff probably picked up on. I think that the importance of quality of life. I think the neighborhood policing talked about that. We had never really talked about it as a council. I think that the importance of outdoor economics came through. So I think there were a lot of things that I found helpful that was to hear from council. And, it's clear that you guys don't agree every little thing, but these overarching themes was, I thought, very helpful. So, yes, I also hope staff heard that they're doing it right. there was no pivot here. It was all, let's keep doing it and then add, or economic development, your branding, the economics around wine and around the heart of Arizona wine country, keep at it. Let's just do some more things. Let's, concentrate maybe in a couple other places. So I thought we heard a lot of good things from council today that staff is doing right. No big 180, no big turn around kind of thing. So I thought that was good to hear and reinforced, I think, what you guys have expected out of us.
Good.
Do you have anything to finish with, Mayor Alinsky? Or?
Did you bring your accordion? So we have a few extra minutes, you could. No, I just, again, I'm just awful proud to serve with all of you. And I think, like I said in the beginning, this plan is really important to keep us all focused. There is going to be a lot of noise and distraction as we work through these next few weeks and couple months. I think we all know that. But having a good plan like what we're coming up with here is just really important to keep us, again, eye on the prize. We may disagree, but we can certainly agree on what this plan means to us and just move forward on this. And kudos to Ron. Really, really appreciate you being here with us. Kudos to your staff. I think you've done a really good job getting everyone facing the same direction. And I am just really proud that everybody's worked so hard under some really stressful circumstances. I mean, this really has been one of the more challenging years I think that many of us have ever faced. But you've done it with grace and dignity and all the stuff we expect of you, and I just really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Even executing this meeting the last couple of days, I think you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Putting
Again,
it all together.
it's a team effort, and I couldn't be prouder, having people who've been around a while like Rudy Rodriguez and the city clerk that can keep us in historical perspective. A lot of our new folks in, from Tricia to Mark Williams and our airport manager, Ron Saltman, our new fire chief. I just think we've got a great team. We've got frontline workers that put in the work every day, doing a great job, providing great customer service, whether it's Parks and Rec or utility billing or whatever it is. It's just a very good team. And it does help when we're united up here and speak in a common voice. It's great to have discourse and discussion. We don't want to be all yes people. A few more yeses would be okay now and again, but right. But no, we work for great council, and I have a great staff, and I think. So what we'll do is we'll take this, if it pleases council, and get it back from Marcy. Then staff will meet. I've already, Rudy, I forgot to ask you, but I ran into Ryan, and so Ryan will help lead a project again on how to fine tune this a little differently this year, and we'll move forward with that. And I shared the other day with council that kind of goes with this. The small town feel, it's really stuck with me, this small town feeling, as we're going to develop our leadership culture. We're going to put it in writing, put it in paper, and I just thought that's kind of another little perspective that we might be adding to that core values for our leadership team. So it was kind of nice to have this first as we move forward in our development of the leadership cultural statement and cultural values that we develop over the next year. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. Marcy, fantastic job. I don't know how you did this, getting this written down and getting these ideas into a readable and understandable format. So thank you for everything you did for us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I'm excited. I mean, I heard consensus, collaboration, and culture. Those were the three themes that I heard today, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you. I can't wait to see what happens from here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to the staff for hanging in online.